Good morning and welcome to Sewing Street on this glorious Monday morning. It's the 1st of February. How did January go so quick? Well, it feels like it went quick, but February already, we're marching through the year. And at least it wasn't snowing this morning, so nicer weather. Anyway, we've got some brilliant things coming up for you on Sewing Street this morning, but let's crack on with the early bird. Really excited about this one because it's a fantastic bundle of stranded cotton. This pack of stranded cotton, there's 24, no, there's not 36, I need to put my glasses on, can't read. There we go, 36. Where did I get 24? It's because I couldn't read. 36 skeins, and there's 8 metres in each skein in here. Now, this is normally £9.95. Is that right? £9.95 for the whole pack. But today, this morning, special, it's £9.99 normally, but today it's £6.99. Now, in here, this is just a selection that Hannah organised for me early. Look at this. Because these aren't just normal stranded cotton, they are all variegated. So that works out at 19 pence a skein. I mean, 90, that's amazing, isn't it? So if you're new to embroidery or you want to have a go at embroidery, but you know you want a range of colours, this is perfect. If you already do embroidery, it's great for that. But you can use them for lots of other things. They're really good for tied quilting. Now, if you've never used stranded cotton before, I'm going to take one of them out of the wrapper. I'm going to take them out of one of these out. So in stranded cotton, if I unwind a bit, there are 6 strands. Some embroidery threads you can't separate, but stranded cotton you can. So if you separate them, there are 6 strands. And normally, if you're doing cross stitch, you normally use 2 of these. So you cut a length that you need and then take out 2. And with embroidery, you can use however many. If you want very fine embroidery, you just use 1 strand. If you want it a bit weightier, you can go all the way up to 6 strand. But the wonderful thing about variegated, if I undo it, you can see it changes colour. So here it starts at white and it moves to sort of a light turquoise and a deeper turquoise. So the great thing is if you're embroidering with it, it changes colour without you having to try. This is particularly good if you're doing lettering. So say you're personalising something, you want to embroider someone's name on something. It looks really good. It looks like you've changed colour all the time. But what's lovely in this pack is that although they're variegated, the colour change is quite subtle. You've got an amazing choice. So this one's like a really beautiful teal, but then you've got a darker teal. You've got petrol blue. You've got all the emerald greens. I mean, look at the blue ones. They're all very slightly different, so you can use different numbers. If you really want to up the variegation, if you cut a length and take say 2 strands out and then put them back together again but the opposite way round, you get even more variegation. You've got all of the reds, browns, purples, corals. I mean, there's not all 36. This is the 36, and it's not just like that. It's triple layer deep. So, and they're all different as well, but you've got a whole beautiful range of colours there. So if you're thinking about having a go at embroidery, or you want to just, just personalise something, just put some initials or something, then that's fantastic, isn't it? That's a really, really good start for 19p a skein. I mean, they sell really well anyway at £9.99, but at £6.99, Now, if you haven't shopped with us before, we only have 1 P&P per day, which is £3.95, and that goes from now till 8 o'clock, till midnight. Sorry, it goes 8 o'clock. I'm just saying, no, I meant from 8 o'clock, so it goes up till midnight. It's only one set, it's £3.95. So the £3 that you're saving today almost covers your P&P. Anything you then put in your basket for the rest of the day is like free P&P. So the best thing about the early bird is you kind of cover your P&P as you go. It's almost free. So, I mean, I love embroidery. I like cross stitch as well. So I use variegated for cross stitch, particularly when doing backgrounds. But the great thing about stranded cotton, I think, is the thickness of the strands. Is because you can change it. If you want some really thick embroidery, you can use the whole 6 strands, or even thicker, you can combine it and have 12, or the one strand is so fine, but it's just very versatile. This is like the staple of cross stitch, and we'll add embroidery as well. But look at the colour choice, and there's ones in there that Hannah isn't laid out. There's like bright pink, and there is a yellow there, and browns. No, I don't think there's any blacks. Yes, there was like a sort of a grey charcoal colour, that one there. So we've just had a message in from Sue. And she says, morning, ladies. Morning, Sue. Looking forward to Flower of the Month. Well, that's what we've got coming up. Yes, love to you, Sue, and Donna as well, who's just messaged in. But you remember, you know, when you're, anything that you buy, if you're buying panels or fabric, remember, you know, everything can be embellished. Just quite often, if I buy something, a fabric, if I'm making something, maybe I make a makeup bag in a floral fabric. I always do a bit of embroidery. And the brilliant thing is the pattern's already on there. And, you know, when you've got a big pack like this, if you haven't got stranded cotton, you're very limited because you've then got to go and buy one skein of every colour. And, you know, in some of the brands, they do about 400 colours. Well, you're never going to have all of those. But in a pack like this, you've got everything. So what a fantastic early bird. So we have got lots for you today on Sewing Street and Yarn Lane at 12. I was just having a think. So coming up on Sewing Street today, we have got 8 o'clock now, Flower of the Month. We are on February Flower of the Month. So we have only got 2 months left and then we will have finished the whole thing. So I'll pop over in a minute and we'll show you what the Flower of the Month is. Leave that for a surprise. 9 o'clock, we've got the Take 5 quilt, which is a great concept. You take 5 minutes to choose 5 fabrics and then in the 5 hours, you finished a whole quilt top. There's a picture of it there. I was having a chat to Jules this morning who made it and she said it actually does take 5 hours as well because I said, really? But it does. It takes 5 hours. So that's coming up at 9. 10 o'clock, we've got sewing room tools, lots of different tools and gadgets and accessories for you, including a jigsaw, which I was quite excited by. 11 o'clock, Quilt As You Go. Jules is back with us to show us how to make these amazing trio of wine totes. And we've got, there's one of them. We've got 3 different fabric packs for you to choose from. She's going to take you through from beginning to end how to make one. And there are 3 different designs. So that's great. So rather than giving somebody a bottle of wine or whiskey in one of those paper bags, you can just make your own, keep it. And then at 12 o'clock, yay, we've got Yarn Lane, back by popular demand, tatting for beginners. We had Barbara on with us just over a month ago and all her kits sold out. So this is your real beginners tatting show. That's at 12 o'clock with Yarn Lane. Fantastic. Very last look before I leave them, move on, at the early bird of these beautiful skeins. Remember, these work out as 19 pence. 19 pence. Which is amazing. So there's lots of you multi-buying these at the moment, which I'm not surprised. Because if you buy the other stranded cotton, that can cost you like up to about £1.20 a skein. And these are 19 pence. And there are, I was just checking, there are 8 metres in every skein, which is what you have in the normal, the ones with the brands. They're 8 metres as well. And it's nice quality, nice colours. This is my favourite one, I think. Yes, and I'm not sure we'll ever get it back together since I've unwound it. But it is very turquoise. But, you know, if you want to just have a go at a bit of embroidery, and I'll show you in a minute, they'd be perfect for the Flower of the Month. This is a great way of paying for your getting your P&P for free because of the £3, almost, that you save, almost. Think of it like that. But what about, you know, and when you think that is just a few of them, you get 36 of these. Absolute bargain. Anyway, right, I'm going to move on round to the table. So let's talk about shopping. That's the most important. Then let's get shopping out of the way, although we do love shopping. So look, there's our website. So www.sewingstreet.com. Now the easiest way to shop with us is to click on Watch Live. And then everything that we're talking about today, look, there we go, Hannah's scrolling down now. The ones that we've played and the ones that we've got on pre-order are all on there. So the easiest thing to do is scroll down. If there's something that I've shown you or I've talked about or we've discussed, it'll be on there so you don't have to trawl through the website to find it. And then you just click on Add to Basket and there we go. That's the easiest way, or it's a good way of just checking out what we've got and what there is. I mean, obviously there are lots and lots of other products on the website that clearly you can buy, but we've just taken them out of there and they're on there for you to just scroll down. If you don't want to shop on the website, then yes, do call us. We've got a UK call centre, completely free, and the people on there are really helpful. 0800 001 4433. So you can either shop with us on sewingstreet.com on the website, or on the phone number, and they are really helpful, and they're quite good if you've got any questions, you're not sure about something, or you can't remember which, did I want the purple one, what was the bundle called. They're really helpful if you've got any questions. If you've got any messages for us, if you want to share photos of things that you've made, or you've got a question for me, or you've got a question for Jules that you want to ask, or you just, want to tell us something or say hello, message the studio@sewingstreet.com. We love having your messages and love reading them out on air. So this morning is February, flower of the month. Very exciting because this is my flower. It's my birthday in February. Everybody, it's my birthday. So this is the violet, which is the flower of the month. That's lovely, isn't it? I like violets as well, which is handy, seeing it's my flower. Violet is flower of the month. It symbolises modesty and honesty and commitment. That's what it symbolises. This panel here is absolutely exclusive for and designed by Sewing Street for you. So before we even came on air, the first 50 went. Now, if you're not aware of Flower of the Month, if this is your first time, we are now on month 10. So we started this off in May. Oh no, it's May. So we're not on month 10, are we? February, March, April. No. We must be on, because we've got March and April. Yes, so we are on month 10. This is month 10. Yes. I thought I was going mad then. We're on month 10. So we started this in May last year. And every month we printed off so the first 100 have already gone. So if you want these, you need to put them in your basket and you need to check out, because they're not yours unless you've checked out. What's lovely about these, and now we know that there is a flower of the month. Quite often there are two. So we've chosen the one that we like the best. And the Victorians had a whole language of flowers, and all the flowers symbolise and mean different things. And then the flowers were assigned to each month. So everyone has their own. And it's just a lovely thing, because if you read about the history of them and when they first came, the violet is talked about and spoken of in Roman times and in Greek mythology as well. And that's how the whole modesty side of the violet came about from Greek mythology. Very, very complicated story. But aren't they lovely? So on this panel, what you get, if you haven't seen these before, you get a 12 by 12 inch panel. That's the one with the violet in, and then it's got some, it's sat on a fabric strip. You've got underneath it February Violet, and then another label that says quilted by. Right, just a warning. The phone lines are really, really busy at the moment. So if you are phoning up to order, just have a bit of patience. You will get through, but at the moment they are just very busy. So you just need to wait a bit. But if you need to call the call centre, then it is a little bit busier than normal. It's not long, but just saying. So on the panel, you get the 12 by 12 inch square with the flower in it. And then you get 5 complementary strips. These strips are 2.5 inches wide. So, like the normal design rolls that you're all aware of, they've been designed so that they're exactly a 2.5 inch width. So if you're sewing with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you've got your finished 2 inch. But they're 43 inches wide, which is fantastic because normal fabric width is 44 inches. So they're almost, bar an inch, as wide as a normal quilting fabric. But you get 5 of those, and you get the violet as well, which is fantastic because it means what you can do, and what a lot of people have done, have collected these over the months, and they've taken them, and then at the very end you can make them into a whole quilt. So what we'll be doing at the end in April is producing a panel with these strips to make the sashing and the borders, and a set of instructions so that you can make the whole quilt. But if you don't want to make the whole quilt, you can just buy the individual panel. You can buy the one that's yours or the one that's for friends. Maybe you know somebody with a birthday in February and you want to make them something special. Now, dotted around behind me, I've got a few examples of things that we've made using the other panels. So this was the first one that we did in May, which was Lily of the Valley. And here we are. You can see that it's been made into a bag. And then the strips that were the complement, because each panel has different colour complementary strips. They're used on the back of the bag, so that's just one thing you can do with it. There's another one here that's oh, sorry, just tripped over the ironing board. One moment. This is a little project bag that you can put all your craft makes in. There's got just a zip across the top, or a bottle of Best Press. That's the Best Press pouch. And then on the back, you see that this is the beauty of it, all of the complementary strips, is you could use them for different things. That's another one. This is clever. This is a little bag. This one is, I've got to check, September, the Aster. And this is a really good idea. It's been made into a little book with pages made from wadding. So if you're doing blocks and you want to keep them safe, or you're doing some patchwork, you can put them in amongst here and it keeps them really safe. So that's a really lovely way of storing projects. There's an apron. Can you see that on the other set? There's an apron. There's on the other set, there's also a Lily of the Valley that's been made into 2 different size cushions, and there's an apron and a drawstring bag. There's all sorts of different things you can do them. So you can collect them to make into your whole quilt. You can make there's a wall hanging over there as well. You can make all sorts of things. So this would make a beautiful quilt that you could hang on the wall or as a lap quilt. And if you collect all of them, when we get to the end, then you can make the whole quilt. But I have got some of them. We put them all for sale. Some of them have gone, but we're going to keep bringing them back. So don't worry, if you have missed any months, if we haven't got them today, we will be getting them back. So if you go on the website, you can see all the ones that we've got. So should we have a look through the others? So the first one, should we start with May? Or should we let's start with January, so that's in order. We'll go backwards. So the January one, January is limited, but it is available. January is the carnation, beautiful pink with lovely pink complementary fabrics down the side. That's really lovely. Then we've got December and November have sold out, but don't worry, if you want to buy them, they will be coming back. So just keep an eye on the website. Hopefully when we bring out the next month, we'll have them all. October is the Marigold. That's beautiful, isn't it? What beautiful shades of sort of yellows and oranges. And then you've got the fabrics there. September. Oh, hang on, we've got to stay on October. I'm going too fast. Sorry, I'm just whooshing through. So there's October. Oh, look. And we've got a bag made from October. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely marigold. So it's quite interesting to see what you can do with it. And there's enough fabric in it to use for the back of the bag. There's enough fabric to use for the straps. But, you could put it as a patch on something. What you can also do, remember now that you've bought all the stranded cotton in the early bird, is that you could embroider all over it. Because it's all printed, all the different colours, you could just maybe work a back stitch around the edge, just to outline it slightly. You could stitch all around the edge. You could fill the centre of it with French knots. The other thing you could do is press some Bonder web on the back of it, and then you could cut it out and use it as a plique. Right, I'm just going to... Oh, I was going to just grab some of the stranded cotton, but it all fell off. Right, I need some green. I'm coming back. I'm back. So, these are just a few of the colours. So the greens... they would look lovely. That's just 2 of the greens. There are more greens in the pack. You could embroider over this, maybe work some satin stitch or do some back stitch along it all the way around the edge. If you're going to embroider on something like this, I would probably use 2, maybe 3 strands. 6 would be too much to get through the fabric, but 3 I would say maximum. But look at the lovely oranges. So this one here, because the marigold actually looks quite variegated, doesn't it? So you could add a lot of variegation. French knots all through the centre of there. You've got some bright oranges, yellows, rusty colours, little highlights. So this would be brilliant. You could embroider it as it is. I mean, in fact, you could embroider all of these panels and really add a bit of personalisation. It's best, if you're going to embroider, is don't cut it off the panel first, because if you want to embroider it, it's best to really put your fabric in a hoop just to keep it taut, because if you're doing anything like satin stitch, anything that's a little bit longer, you don't want the stitching to pull the fabric. So by putting it in a hoop first, if you have a look on the website, we've got lots of wooden embroidery hoops. They're quite inexpensive as well, but really worth it. So don't cut the panel out, work with it in the panel, because you need to have the fabric outside to really stretch it. But you know, you can just highlight a few areas. So if you just wanted to back stitch around the edges of the stems, that would be something. But if you wanted to really make them elaborate, you know, you could embroider around all the edges of all the petals. It'd be something special. So if you know someone who's got a special birthday, or even if it's just you, what a lovely gift for somebody. So, you know, there's lots of different things. You could make it into a cushion or a bag, all the other things that we've got here. But if you embroider it, it would make it really special. There's even a label printed on the panel, quilted by, so you could put that on the back. If I was you, I would put your, write your name on here just in pencil, and then you can embroider all over it. Or you could put someone's name on there. But they do work really well as a plique. But, you know, if you have got a gift for somebody, maybe you know somebody in hospital, you know how you're not allowed to give them fresh flowers anymore? This is their flower, isn't it? And you could, you know, tell them about it. If you go online, you can read all about the whole sort of symbolism of the flower of the month, what the history and the story is behind it, because they all have. I was reading up about the violet yesterday, and it's really interesting about what they mean. And when you look at it, when you look at what the meanings are, and that's what you're supposed to be, whether you are or not. Luckily, there's about 5 different meanings, so there's always going to be one that will work. But the extra strips that you get, you can keep them all together, but what I would say is if you want to use them, is cut them out first into the 2.5-inch strips. Then you can join them back together to do all different things. Or you can cut them as one piece. Oh, Hannah has a very interesting fact about marigolds. Marigolds were frequently carried as love charms in the Middle Ages. So does that mean, so if you were trying to attract a new suitor, you'd carry marigolds? Is that like before Tinder came along? So instead of having Tinder and all the dating apps, you just carried marigolds. That's quite funny. So if you see anyone walking around with marigolds, you'll know. And that doesn't mean rubber gloves either. It's actually got to be the flower. It's really lovely though, isn't it? But actually, I mean, it makes me laugh that the violet is modesty and forgiveness. Right. I'll put the marigold there for a minute. August. This is lovely. I like the August one. August is the poppy. That's beautiful, isn't it? Very pinks and reds. I like the colours that are in here. And it's really nice that the background of all of these panels is the same. I mean, different colours, but the same. So that if you join them all together, they've all got this small spot and then a larger spotty border. So when we finished and we do all of the months together, we'll put sashing strips between all of them and make them into a bigger quilt. So if you are collecting them and you want to make the bigger quilt, I'd start embroidering them now if you want to just add a little bit of interest, even if it's just that you think, right, I'm just going to backstitch across all the stems just to add a bit more to them. With the words as well, the labels, keep hold of these, because when we do the sashing strips between each of the panels, it will be quite nice to cut out the label and sew that beneath each of the flowers. We are in single figures of the poppy, so if you know somebody with an August birthday and you're thinking about poppy, quickly pop it in your basket. Have you ever tried to pick a poppy? Pick a poppy. All the petals fall off, so it's quite nice that they're actually printed. But I love the labels, and even if you don't use the quilted by now, you can use that for something later. And all the strips, don't forget, even if so say you're making the quilt, or you just want to use the panel, you've got all the strips of fabric for free. And remember, they're 2.5 inches wide, so just like your normal design roll, but they are the full width of the fabric as well. Placemats, you know, remember the summer, dim and distant memory of nice weather. They would look very nice, but actually, wouldn't they look lovely as cushions, all of these flowers, for your outdoor furniture? So when the summer comes and we're all outside having our barbecues, you can have all your cushions all set up. And if you want to make them bigger, this is the good thing. We've got one that's, I'll just go and get it. Hang on a minute. Just one moment. So there are only 6 left of the poppy one. So I'm back now. So with the lily of the valley, you can see this one has been made bigger because some of the borders have been sewn all the way around. So say you want to make really big squishy cushions for your outdoor furniture or for the kitchen or wherever, you can just keep joining the panels, the printed strips all the way around the edge to make really big ones. So if you've got maybe garden furniture and you want to make a seat pad for them, you can make them exactly the right size. You know, you get the seat pads that often come with furniture and they're not always nicest, but they've got the foam inside that you need. You can use the cover of that as a template. You can have a whole new, if you get started now, by the time the sun actually shows its face again, you would have a beautiful set. The other thing that's nice to do with these is if you put a piece of wadding behind them, you can quilt round them as well. Use some nice coloured threads. We've got some beautiful Aurifil thread on the website if you want to do that. But you could quilt round it, even free motion or straight quilting around all the sides. I would use, it doesn't really matter, you can use any wadding. A fusible wadding is the easiest, the H640 that we do, which I have got on my desk, the H640, which is the fusible wedding. This is brilliant for things that are small like this because it's a fusible wadding. So all you have to do is iron it onto the back of the fabric, then iron another piece of fabric behind it, just a thin piece of cotton. This is a metre square piece. So you could make four cushions. Actually, you'd be able to make 4 cushions from this, but it does make quite a difference if you quilt it. Have we got one that's we didn't? Oh, I know. Yes, I'm just going to show you. Hannah's got a question. You have to phone in, Hannah. If I'm just yes. Right, so Hannah's question is, if I'm quilting the front of my cushion with the H640, do I need to make a sandwich with the backing fabric? Well, Hannah, you don't have to, but I prefer to. I think you get a better finish, and also sometimes the wadding can get a bit caught on the teeth. So you don't have to, and sometimes if I'm doing something a bit quickly, and it's just a little bit of quilting, I do. But let me show you this one. This is this, what month is this one? June? The pink one. The pink one. I think that one is September. Because, well, I don't know what that one is. So, let me take... I'm not very good at, I don't know what the flower is, but anyway, let me show you this one. This is just something you can do with any of the flowers. So if you place a piece of fabric behind it, then you can stuff it. It's called trapunto, which is an Italian quilting. So you place fabric behind it, and then you make a slit in the fabric behind, and you can put wadding up inside it, and then you quilt round. And can you see, if you get really close, that's given it a real sort of stuffed, almost like stump work appearance, that this is all sort of padded. You can see if I squish it, but the rest of it isn't. So it's a bit like quilting, but you get a much more padded appearance. So they just look really lovely. It gives them a bit of extra relief and 3D-ness. But with any of these, if I was going to do the February, being as that's ones we're talking about. Oh, that was September. Oh, I've lost February. There he is. There he is, hiding underneath. So if you put some wadding behind this, and then a piece of just thin cotton fabric behind that, Then I would use a matching thread. You could either quilt by hand or by machine around each of the petals, or what's quite nice is if you do echo quilting, where you quilt maybe just like 1/8 of an inch, which is about 3 millimeters outside the edge of it all round. That's a little bit easier. Then you haven't got to be as accurate as getting right on the edge, and that gives it a lot of relief. Also, if if you've got a matching thread, quilt around every single petal. It will give it real sort of depth and dimension. You can also do that. You can do quilting and embroidery at the same time by putting the wadding behind here and a piece of backing fabric, and then using some of your stranded cotton that you've just bought and work just a running stitch around the edge. It will give it the colour and the hand embroidery and the quilting all in one go. So there's just so much to do. Although we've printed these and you've got the strips, there's so many different things you can do with them. And don't forget the little labels. If you're making the whole quilt, you can sew them on the sashing below that, or you can use them, you could sew them onto here. If you're making a bigger cushion, maybe you want to make sort of a really big, not necessarily a floor cushion, but maybe you want a 20-inch square cushion, a really big squishy, or 24-inch, then you've got room to sew that on. And the panels, all the strips that you get that are 2.5 by 43 inch, loads of space for those. But I feel like outdoor, I think with your garden furniture, go and get those cushions that you've bought inside so they don't get covered with frost, and you have a look at them and think, actually, I could really update these with this. So, where's the next one? July. July is the delphinium. Isn't that lovely? Beautiful. I love delphiniums. This one is that sort of really deep blue, but you also get them in a lovely purple. And I really like the complementary fabrics that have come with this. So although this is a beautiful deep blue, they're in shades of that sort of slaty grey blue that really make it stand out. There is the wall hanging on the other set, and the other set is made with that. And that's got some lovely sort of very deep, deep purple around the edge of it. I'll go and get it. No, so I've got to get it. I just keep disappearing. Right, so look, there is the delphinium. Let me put it next to the panel so you can see. This one has been made into a little wall hanger. This is really nice, isn't it? It's got little pockets, but you can see that the pockets have been made using the fabric strips, the top two ones. Delphiniums are thought to symbolise cheerfulness and goodwill. And they're a protective plant as well. So if you know someone born in July, they should have lots of goodwill. Where are you, Hannah? Hannah was born in July, so she has lots of goodwill. I thought she was fibbing. I was born in July. But I really like this. So this one is just been quilted just around the edge of the panel, and then these little pockets had on. So there's lots and lots of different things you can do with it. Just use some of the ideas that we've got just for inspiration, and then mix them all together. But I love this. I really like it. I like the fabric strips that come with this one. Really nice sort of deep slaty grey colours. Next, June. So there are only 15 left of the delphiniums, but don't worry if you want to collect the whole set, or if there is one specific one, they will be back. We've just got to wait to get some more in, but this is just what we have at the moment, but we will be getting more in, so don't panic. If there's one specific one that you're after, just keep an eye out, and we will try really hard when we bring them next month to you that we've got all of them, and more stock. July, June, because we're going backwards. We've been going backwards, unfortunately. So, we have been going backwards. So June is the rose, of course. This is a nice one. I wonder, roses, there's hundreds and hundreds of different varieties. I wonder what this one's called. It's a really sort of beautiful peach, but a very delicate peach shade. Now, this is perfect for embroidery because if you look at it, you can see there's real sort of set blocks of colour on it. So you've got the very deep peach in the middle, then an apricotty colour, and then you've got like little speckled bits all the way around. So it's like, when you look at it from a distance, it looks like well, it is an illustration, but when you get in really close, you can see each different petal has got a slightly different pattern in it that gives it the beautiful tones. This is a very peachy rose. So different, and so each, I mean, the rose has a meaning anyway, but each different rose colour has a meaning as well. Pale peach, which is what this one is, means modesty. And peach roses mean appreciation and gratitude. So this is the perfect gift, isn't it, for someone born in June? Or if it was just but if it was a pink rose, then it would be perfect happiness. But this isn't. This is definitely peach. I'm going for appreciation. So what a lovely gift. If instead of sending somebody a thank you card, $9.99, buy the panel, make it into, yeah, $9.99, quilt it, make it into a cushion, all your appreciation is done. But, you know, you could think about if you're making gifts for sort of people's birthdays or even Christmas, which is a long way away. But what's good is that there's so many different meanings for the flowers. You could just choose what you want, so you could just put on the card. So this also means friendship as well. But I think it's lovely that if you're, because obviously you know when everyone's birthday is, you can really plan ahead. You think, right, well, I'm going to get one March, one June and a November, and then I'm sorted. We are going backwards, but I think that's just because we started that way. Because we're starting from February and we're going backwards, aren't we? I do like the darker one with this because it's a really lovely spot and it really makes this stand out. So if I was going to make this into a cushion, I think I'd use that one. That's my favourite one. Yes. May. This one we've got lots of things made from. This was because it was the first one. So May is about to sell out, but don't panic. We will be able to get more of them in. May is Lily of the Valley, and that's the one that we've got. We've got the cushion made out of. It's been the best selling right from the beginning. Now, I don't know whether that's because it's the first one we did or whether it's just because everyone loves Lily of the Valley. Because they don't have to, and I know they are flower of the month, but you don't have to use them. Just, we haven't missed September. Hannah says we've missed September. Okay, so we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to go back because Hannah missed September, which we did August. Which one was September? I don't think we've got September here. I'm going to have to go. Oh, we have. I think it got stuck to a different one. No, yes, I think it must have got mixed up with, what was the one before that? I've got so many months now, I don't know what I'm doing. So, this one is, September is the Aster. Very similar colours to the violet. But pretty. But really pretty, isn't it? But, you know, it doesn't matter that you don't have to make this for someone just because it is flower of the month of his birthday. You can just do it because you like the flower. Although they have labels on them, you don't have to put those on. Nobody needs to know. So if you just think, well, I just really like asters and I want all of my cushions to be asters, then you just buy 5 of them. Purple asters symbolise wisdom and royalty. Well, purple is a very royal colour, isn't it? In ancient Rome, all the senators and the emperor always wore purple. I think it's because it's a very expensive dye. Aster means star, doesn't it? I think all of these flowers, Hannah's reading out to me, all these, what they all symbolise. They all symbolise everything. This symbolise love and patience. But I think because the Victorians started it off, they gave symbols and meanings. But some of them they did take from things like, you know, like the violet that is mentioned in Greek mythology, and then they take that to mean modesty. So there is sort of a reason for them. So this was well, I mean, a lot of these flowers, I mean, they've been around. They're not new, are they? Been around for centuries, thousands of years. But it's weird, isn't it, when you think back, you go back to Roman times or Greek times, and they had asters then. Exactly the same. So if you want to buy any of these and you can't remember which ones I've been talking about, they are all on the website. So until they've sold out. But don't worry, if there is a specific one you want and that you're looking for, if you just wait, we will be getting them all back on stock. So let's just recap. I'm going to just move the other months off to one side and the wadding. So I must show you this wadding because we just only talked about it briefly. On one side, it's smooth. That's the right side. And on this side, it's bumpy. And this bumpy is the glue. So what you have to do, and luckily it comes with instructions actually printed on it, which is really handy. It tells you how long you have to iron it for 15 seconds. Now, when I do it, I always place the glue side up and then put your fabric right sides up on top so that they're wrong sides together, and then press on top. But put a cloth on top of the fabric you're pressing, because it does say you should use a slightly damp cloth. You don't really need to, but a bit of steam does help a bit. But put another cloth, just something like a tea towel will do, on top of the fabric, and that just protects it, and then it will stick on. And it makes it so much easier if you're making bags or cushions, or maybe you just want to put a bit of wadding on the gusset of something to give it a bit of extra padding. The iron-on stuff is fantastic because you don't have to bother with all that tacking. So that is one thing. I always have that and Bonder web in my stash. Right. So if you like this month's panel and you want to do other things with it, there is more you can do with it. Let me just move the others. There we go. We have put together some fabrics for you that go together really well. So we've chosen them because they match beautifully. So this bundle is called... Oh, they're separate. It's not a bundle. These are separate. So we've put together 3 fabrics that go together, as you can see, really beautifully with it. So we've got a beautiful purple, really, really rich purple, which is the colour that's right in the centre of these, because violets are all a sort of a bluey purple colour. I mean, they do come in different colours, violas, which violet is part of, but part of the same species, but obviously traditionally they are purple, and this is echoed right in the centre of here. So if you wanted to make something else with it, maybe you were making a bag and you wanted straps, or you were doing something you wanted to bind it with, or even a lining that you wanted to, put a pretty lining on it, that this colour goes beautifully with it. Okay, now we've also got, so if you want something, you could use all of these. You could use the strips as well as these. This grey, I think this is light grey. It is light grey. That goes really well with it because grey and purple go beautifully together. So that's a really lovely tone. If you just lay that down the side of them, doesn't that go well? I'll put the purple on the bottom and you can compare, see which one you like the most. But you can buy both. But, you don't have to buy it for this. You can use it with anything, but don't those colours go really well together? Or just white. White always works, doesn't it? Works with everything. I'll put that one on the top. Gives that. There we go. Look at that. Gives that a real freshness. But it's interesting when you lay, let me just move it over a bit. When you lay 3 different colours next to something, what a complete difference. So when the purple here is making the purples of the centre of the violets really pop out. But the grey makes the lighter colours pop out, and so it makes them almost feel darker, but then the white just gives it a real freshness. So depending on what you want to make with them, then these are 3 fabrics that go together very well with it. I like white. White's just useful, isn't it? White does everything. But, you don't have to buy them with the panel. It's if you want it for your stash, those are the codes. Remember, if you haven't bought fabric from us before, we cut fabric to order, which is a real bonus, because when you buy fabric, you don't want half a metre always. You want a metre, or you want a metre and a half. So we sell it in half metre increments. So when you get to your basket and it asks you how much you want, if you put 1 in the basket, you'll be sent half a metre. Now, half a metre is obviously the full width of the fabric, which is 44 inches or 114 centimetres, and then obviously it's 50 centimetres deep, which is just about 20 inches. So That's a decent amount of fabric. That's 2 cushion backs for £3.49 if you're thinking of it like that. But if you want more than half a metre, say you want 1.5 metres to do something, then just put 3 in the basket, because you have to do it in units 3. And you won't be sent 3.5 metres, you will be sent 1.5 metres, because we do cut to order. We've got a lovely big warehouse just over the road. I love going into the fabric warehouse. I don't know if everyone else does, but when I'm up here, I always pop in. And you go in there and there's just rolls and rolls and bolts of fabrics all over the... they've got shelving. It's all over the place. It's just lovely. And then you've got loads and loads of lovely people all with rotary cutters and mats, and they're just cutting all the fabric to order. So whatever you want, once the order comes through, they will cut it for you for order. It's lovely. So it's like going into a sweet shop for me, but I always go, oh, that's nice. Where'd you get that one? And I always want it, but I'm afraid you have to order it to have it. But it is a lovely place to go because it's a very big warehouse full of fabric, and there's always people cutting and rolling and folding. It's lovely. Anyone who isn't into sewing probably doesn't get it, but I'm sure all of you out there do get what I mean. But going to and it's just opposite. You don't have to walk out the door and it's there. Just love it. Love the fabric warehouse. Oh, sorry, I just smacked my mic. We've got lots of other fabric bundles for you as well. Oh, I've got bits and pieces all over the place. This one here, this is really good. This neutral bundle. This doesn't match up necessarily specifically with any panels. It's just a really useful neutral bundle. So I'll just move Violet's out of the way. It does. This one. Do you mean the marigold? This one works really well with the marigold that Hannah's calling a carnation. It's not. It's a marigold. This one works really well. So this is a bundle of 4 half meters, but in beautiful, just natural warm tones. So in here I've got to guess what they are now. You've got white, and so half a metre of each. White, then ivory, cream, and nude. Depends how long you've been in the sun for, really, doesn't it? I don't think I look like that colour. I think I'm more that colour. Or even maybe that colour, actually, at the moment in the winter. So if you want half a metre of each of these are really lovely neutral fabrics. It's all, whenever we do this one, it's called the neutral core fabric bundle. Half a metre, 4 fabrics. It's very hard, I think, the moment, because we can't get to the fabric shops, when you're shopping online, to choose colours, isn't it? And also, that go together. And when you go into shops, not everybody will stock 4 neutral colours that are very close in colour like this. But luckily, because of the size of our fabric warehouse, we can stock such a big range. And if you're, maybe you're making a neutral or natural type quilt and you want colours that are, there is different depths to these. What looks lovely, when you're doing a log cabin quilt and you have like 2 very variants, you want a white side and a dark side. It's nice to vary them, but just have very, very gradual shades and tones. Or what if you're doll making? You've got 4 skin colours here, from very white to a bit nude. And we have more colours than this, but we've put that together. So it goes beautifully with this marigold panel. But if you do want some neutral shades and tones, that we've selected these because we know they go together, and it's one of our most popular bundles because it's just one of those ranges, when you just think, well, I'll just put a bit of cream with that, and then you realise actually the cream you've got isn't right cream, it's too yellow, or it's too pink. I know it's like when you buy paint, isn't it, and there's like pink, white, apple white, and this is the same with cream, isn't it? You can get clotted cream, you can get ice cream. It depends on there's the vanilla colours, there's pinker creams, but these go really well together, and it's nice to have that selection at home so that when you need something neutral, you've got a nice choice there. I've got a very nice pastel bundle. Can I do the pastel bundle next? Now this one's lovely. This is very floral. This is very ice cream, actually. This makes me think of ice creams. So we've got all of these colours. They all are the same tonal value. So they will all go together very well if you wanted to put them together. Because they were like ice cream colours. They are the same tone. So you've got this beautiful, very pale, delicate lilac. Then a pale blue. And then you've got a pink, but it's not a really sort of shouty, vibrant pink. It really is a pastel pink. So I think that's more strawberry. And then you've got this lovely mint. That's real mint choc chip. But because they're the same tonal value, and then you've got a nice lemon. So they're lovely because they're the same tonal value. Perfect for anything to do with for babies because they are very pastel sort of nursery shades. If you want to have some pastel tones, then you know that they'll all go together, but it's just a nice selection. They're just soft and gentle colours. But, you know, it's nice to have this colour range, so you don't have to use them all together. When we put these bundles, we've put them together because they go together. They're the same tonal range. We don't have to use them all together. So let me separate them. So there's mint. You know, that is very lemon, very pale lemon. I like the mauve. There we go. Let me move it up. So for £17.45, you get 2.5 metres, 5 half-metre pieces that all go together really well. And when you think of it, every half metre is 2 fat quarters, obviously. So you're getting a lot of fabric there, and that's just a really nice range. So I know it's the winter, and I know the weather isn't very nice, but spring is springing. It's on its way, and if you're thinking about making, you know, baby makes or, you know, just something with a bit of lightness and brightness, that is the perfect range. Should we do green? Green, because green's another difficult colour, isn't it? As in, there are loads of them. But you've got a nice selection of greens here. You've got the mint, that was in the other one. And then you've got a beautiful sort of deep peacock green. And that's not what it's called. Lovely olive citrine green and then a real emerald. But again, you know, these you could use with any of the flowers because obviously all the flowers have got stalks and leaves. So they would look beautiful with any of the flowers. You can use them as borders, as complementary pieces. It's just nice if you like green and you want a few different shades to choose from. That's a great bundle. So that's £12.99. You get 4 half metres in there. So I know we didn't have all of the months today, but we're just waiting to get them from the supply. But they will be here, so don't worry if you think, oh, actually, I'd really like to make that quilt. It is going to look fantastic when it's finished. We'll have to get that done over the next 2 months. I know some of them are sold out, so if you've been disappointed when you've gone on it online and tried to buy them, don't worry, we will be getting them back. It's just getting them off the supply at the moment is the problem. February, so a lady's just messaged in and asked what is the February flower. It's violets. February is violets. That's the one that our brand new one today. And January was carnation, but that one's currently sold out. But we will be getting more, so don't worry. Don't worry if you've got a February birthday like me. Over half of the violet stock is gone. Which I'm not surprised, but we will get more. It's really lovely, isn't it? I mean, if you just look at the complementary tones there, they're lovely, aren't they? So, you know, for your £9.99, you're getting the whole panel, the 12-inch panel, plus all the strips as well. This mauve goes really well with it, doesn't it? That's in the pastel bundle. That goes beautifully with it, doesn't it? In fact, they go really nice. I think it is quite a pastel colour flower. I know you've got that real sort of depth of the dark purple inside. That's lovely, isn't it? I've got one more bundle. Oh, this is super bright, isn't it? I like this fabric because it's plain, but it's not plain. It's the mixers. I'm going to show you. We've only got a few left of this bundle. Now, they might look plain when you look on the screen, but I'm going to show you the green because I think the colour change shows up the best on the green. Very soft fabric as well. It's really lovely. So look at that. You can see, I think with these fabrics, and there's like 6 or 7 different colours, but they're all just sort of muted. So it's a really nice thing that if you want to use a plain fabric, but you want it to just have a little bit of texture and depth, then it's absolutely perfect for that. Oh, this one has now sold out. So I can't show you the glory of the green and the blue and the yellow and the orange. But also we have got, so we will be bringing this bundle back, so don't worry. It's lovely. I love these mix of prints. The last thing I've got are the solstice prints. These are just such a lovely fabric. These are by Wyndham Fabrics. Now, these are all sold by the half metre. They're from the Solstice collection by Wyndham Fabrics, and they are absolutely stunning. So, these are all sold by the half metre. This isn't a bundle. I'm just going to pick out my favourites for you. And then we'll put the rest on the website just below us in a moment. XPU 193. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that gorgeous? We've only had this on air a couple of times and we've now only got 7 metres left of it. Isn't it stunning? So you can really see the paisley print in it. But you've got beautiful shades of teal and emerald and dark, deep pink. I mean, that is absolutely glorious, isn't it? I love that one. I don't know whether we've got the same one in a different colourway. I don't think we have, actually. It's lovely, isn't it, though? That's a beautiful colour. So, and then another one, I like the colours. Maybe I'm just drawn to these colours. I love this. You've got a real, this is the real sort of winter solstice, isn't it? There's only 12 metres of this one left. So you've got a really deep midnight navy background, and then on top of that you've got these teal coloured flowers and real sort of bright fuchsia splashes here and there. So really in depth. I mean, there's a lot of value in this fabric, as in there's a lot in it and there's a lot of flowers. You can do so many things with it, you know. But something like it'd make a beautiful summer dress or a skirt, wouldn't it? Because it's, you know what, quite often, particularly in the summer, it's nice to wear sort of darker or vibrant colours like this. It goes really well together. And we've also got the same fabric, but in pink. It's exactly the same fabric, but it's lovely in the pink, isn't it? And it's a really lovely, you haven't got the bright fuchsia like in this one. But there's so many different, you know, I think they work really well because although they're quilting weight, you can use them for dressmaking as well as home sewing. So you can imagine this as a really pretty cushion in the living room. It would look lovely, particularly sort of on a cream or a pink or a green sofa. But equally, it would look really lovely as a little cotton blouse, which is really useful. Hannah wants a little bomber jacket made from this. Be amazing, wouldn't it? I've seen some really nice patterns for jackets. That would make a lovely summer jacket. But that's what I like about quilting weight cotton, is that it can be used for both. I love those two. But this is a really nice collection of fabrics because you've got that real colourway. So we are going to have to, if you're interested in the Solstice collection, I have more here. Hannah's just about to put them on the website, so you'll be able to buy them below the watch now. There's a whole selection of different prints, but all from that one collection, so all the colours go together. But they're beautiful. So, coming up in just a couple of minutes, Jules will be on showing us this amazing quilt. 5 fabrics, 5 minutes, make it in 5 hours. But she'll be with us just in not even 5 minutes, a couple of minutes, and I will see you then. Okay.
In need of a crafting fix? There are so many ways you can watch Sewing Street and Yarn Lane. Sewing Street is live from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day on Freeview 72 and Sky 670. Alternatively, if you want to watch us on a tablet or on the move, you can tune in on our YouTube channel, the Sewing Street app, or the websites at www.sewingstreet.com and www.yarnlane.com. You can watch past shows on Sky 670 from 1 p.m. every day, as well as our YouTube channel, the app, and our website. Yarn Lane is on from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Visit our programme guide to find out when and what's on. So you never have to spend a minute without us.
Hi, my name's Jules Mayouf and I'm really excited to be a guest designer on Sewing Street. Okay, I got into sewing through my grandma. I used to sit and watch her. She was a dressmaker. And I started off making toys and then I was dressmaking myself, and from then I've done homeware and children's wear and all sorts of different things in between. I would say my top tip is to be kind to yourself. It's only fabric at the end of the day, and if things do go wrong then you've always got your quick unpick. My claim to fame is that in 2012 I was a VIP driver with the Olympics, and I met some really interesting people who were very nice, and I'm hoping that I'll meet some very interesting and nice people on Sewing Street too.
While we're having to spend more time at home again, we're here to keep you busy and entertained. Sewing Street will be live every day from 8 a.m, bringing you plenty of demonstrations with our experts in dressmaking, quilting, bag making, toy making, needle felting, embroidery, and so much more. Our community of fellow sewists on the Sewing Street fans Facebook group are there to chat to you about whatever you're making, sharing photos and advice. Check out the Sewing Street Facebook and Instagram pages for fun competitions and offers.
Follow Sewing Street and Yarn Lane on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with what's coming up on the show, as well as being the first to know about our amazing offers. Get involved with our competitions that are exclusive to social media. And pick up some top tips from us too. Stuck for ideas for the perfect gift? Why not get them a gift card? You can buy Sewing Street and Yarn Lane gift cards loaded up with anything from £10 to £500. Shop our gift cards online at www.sewingstreet.com or www.yarnlane.com, or purchase them via our UK call centre on 0800 001 44 33.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hi and welcome back to Sewing Street. So we've got a whole hour of quilting now. We've got this wonderful quilt pattern. I'm going to read it. Take 5, it's called. Take 5 minutes, choose 5 fabrics, and in just 5 hours you can make this fabulous quilt. Well, one of those things isn't true. It does use 5 fabrics, and you can do it in 5 hours because Jules told me, but I don't know how anyone could choose fabric in 5 minutes. Luckily, we've done that for you, so you don't have to choose them, so it won't take you the 5 minutes. But honestly, if you were choosing them yourself, have you ever chosen quilt fabrics in 5 minutes? More like 5 hours. You know, you're in the quilt shop and you go, oh, don't know. Oh, does that one go with that one? And then you have to ask somebody. But the good thing is we've taken that out of the equation for you. So Jules has made one up for us using this bundle, and it's the one that's on the wall. In the bundle, there you go, this is the one. It's called Navy and Yellow. Take 5 quilt kit. So in it, you get 5 metres of fabric and the instructions. So in the instructions, in this little packet, you've got picture, all the measurements, the diagrams, even the cutting layout. It tells you what you've got to cut out and how you do it. All the information you need to know, how to do the blocks. It's got optional quilt sizes as well. So this quilt is excellent for a great quilt for a twin queen or king size bed. So what it does is if you want to make it bigger than that, it tells you how to add more blocks, which is quite useful because sometimes you think, oh, I want to make it smaller or bigger, but it explains all of that to you. And it gives you the cutting measurements if you want to do all of the different versions. If you want to make it bigger, it shows you about the layout for it, and also how to make a smaller one. And it tells you how much fabric you need to buy if you're going to make an even bigger one. But this one in this pack is 64 by 76 inches, which is a really good single bed size, actually. Yeah, we're looking at it, that's definitely single bed size. So in here you get 5 meters of fabric. So you start off with, it does look just like a plain white, but it isn't. It's actually got a print to it. But it's white on white. When you look on the website, it might look a bit grey. It's just so that you can show it. But there's like a white little repeating pattern of flower, like a mosaic flower, printed on top of it. So it's not just a plain white. You've got a really nice texture to it as well. Then that fabric is used for the border all the way around the edge of it, the big white border. Then you've got this lovely mauvey colour fabric. The Reflections by Stoff. There's a metre of this, so it's a lovely lilac colour, mauvey colour. It's a very sort of grey mauve, and it's got like dandelion clocks printed over. Well, that's what I think they are. They look like dandelion clocks printed. So there's a metre of each of those, and everything else is half a metre. So you've got Riley Blake. Lovely yellow. I like this. I remember when this one first came out. It's really lovely. It's got some lovely prints on it. It's got sort of dried flowers and string and twine and nice lettering on it. That's a lovely sort of primrose yellow colour. Then the stripe, this one, this is Liberty. Shall I open it up so you can see? Look, that's Liberty fabric, half a metre of Liberty. Beautiful, isn't it? I love that one. So this one is from the Hesketh House collection, Nouveau Mayflower. That's beautiful. So if you buy this bundle, you're buying a Liberty bundle because you've got half a metre of that in it. Then you've got half a metre of this lovely sort of taupe background colour, small print fabric. This is from the Hannah Basics. You know, they're not just sort of like random. They are different designers, but they're all our sort of quality quilting weight fabric. So that's from Stoff Fabrics. This is a leather Liberty print. This is from the Hesketh Out collection. So this is a really sort of deep blue background with a lighter blue, but almost on the sort of the mauve side of blue. They look like berries and twines. And then finally, this is a Rose and Hubble fabric. Rose and Hubble, navy and white stripe. So what a lovely collection. And you can see in the quilt behind Jules how beautifully they go together as well. That's lovely. And you get 2 Liberties in there. And a brand new to us pattern. And it is a really big quilt. 64 by 76 is a really good size. So for all of that bundle, so $58.99, you can make a quilt, a really decent sized quilt, not just a lap quilt. You learn new skills, make it, and it's quite a quick make. I mean, obviously after that you've got to quilt it and everything, but you know, it's a really quick, it's a simple make, and it's all there for you. So that take 5 minutes you don't have to bother with. You've got an extra 5 minutes to make a cup of tea and have a few biscuits before you start. Right, the next pack is the one that Jules will be demoing for us today. And this is called the Cream and Red. So, again, don't forget, you get the pattern. So should we start from the biggest fabric first? So you get 1.5 meters of this Hannah Basic by Stoff Fabrics. And that will be used for the borders that go around the edge. Then, I'm just trying to remember on that quilt. Then you get 1 meter of chartreuse. and that's used for the binding and the inner borders. It's like translating them across the two quilts, isn't it? Then you get 1/2 metre each of these, and you can choose whatever order they go in. There's all mixture in here. So we've got a plain cream. We've got beautiful, this one must be, let me just check, this one must be Liberty. Forget Me Not Flower Garden, that's lovely, isn't that beautiful fabric? So you get 2 Liberties in this one. It's beautiful colour. Now there are less than 20 of these left, so if you want this bundle you need to check out, but that's beautiful, isn't it? The other Liberty, I think, is this one. This is Manor House Tile, that's a nether Liberty, but that goes together really well with that. This one, and this one is a Liberty print as well. Again, they're all these sort of mille fleurs, 1,000 flowers, mille fleurs tulip from the Winterbourne House collection. And then finally you've got this lovely sort of vintage rose that's got like a natural linen coloured background. But it's lovely. It is most similar to the colourway that's actually on the instructions. But, you know, the fact that you've got 2 Liberty fabrics in this, that's beautiful. So that's bundle number 2. And we've got less than 15 of those. So if you want to buy that one, you need to pop that one in your basket. Bundle number 3 is called Pastel. So you've got 1.5 meters of this, like a pinky terracotta floral fabric. And that one, that's used for the sashing around the edges. Then you've got a really bright, vibrant yellow. This is if you want a really sort of colourful quilt. And that one is used for the sort of binding and the inner borders. But, you know, this is a really vibrant one. Then we've got for 1/2 metre of these 5 fabrics. This is to give it a real vibrancy. We've got 1/2 metre really bright blue, which is great because it actually picks out this, look at, there's your Liberty. But the really lovely, vibrant turquoise picks out the peacocks in that print. I love this one. Should we open it out and have a look? Isn't that lovely? That's a beautiful print, isn't it? So you will have, if you buy any of these, you'll have a Liberty quilt. But it's nice, isn't it? Because, you know, as I said earlier, choosing your fabrics, there's no way it takes 5 minutes, but you don't have to do that because we've put it together so it goes. This one is the blue version of the one that you've got 1.5 meters of there. So you can see how well those go together, and it blends beautifully with that one. So, and it's up to you. Jules will explain in a minute how you choose where you put each fabric, but you can choose your own colour layout. And then you've got this lovely pink that picks up some of the pink tones in there, and then a white, but it's not just a plain white, it is a white print on white. You can't really see it on camera, but it's a floral, sort of a twining floral print, but it's printed white on white. So when you actually make it into the quilt and it's all opened up, you will see the print better, but it just gives it a little bit more texture. And that obviously comes with the pattern, but you can also buy the pattern on its own. Now, we are very limited on the pattern on its own. It's very, very popular. There's only single figures left of this. So if you only want to buy the pattern on its own, it's $9.99. So there we go. So you can choose between one of the 3 bundles, or you can have the pattern on its own. If you're quick, that is, because it's going. And you'll have to take you over 5 minutes to choose your own fabrics then. So, before we move over to Jules, I've got some backing fabrics. So if you want to back the quilt, because you want to have everything in your house at once, now these aren't extra wide backings, you will need to join these together, but there is enough in each bundle to back your quilt. So if you're thinking, right, I can't get out to the shops, I just want to buy it all today, you've got the dark crimson, say dark red. There's 4 meters in here, so there's enough. There's enough you'd have to join them together, but there's enough to back your quilt. The crimson will go really well with this bundle. That'll go really well with the green and red. And then the other one is cream, and that will go with any of them, but it will go well with the other 2. You could use the crimson for the pastel bundle, but I think the cream will look better. So these are in pre-cut lengths. So, I mean, but actually, you know, even if you don't want them for backing this quilt or any quilt, this is a pre-cut 4-metre bundle of backing fabric. It's all in one piece. It's not like all different half-metre pieces. You know, we were saying earlier, it is pre-cut for you, and that is enough. So if you want your 4 metres of cream fabric, that's enough to back it. Because, you know, we want to be able to offer you, so, you know, you get all of this arriving on your doorstep in one go. This is the whole quilt. So you can buy your backing fabric there. There's your bundle. If you want wadding, we've got that as well. There's the wadding. It's the same one. The label you get on the website is slightly different, but it's the same. This is a queen size wadding, so this is the right size to go with your quilt. So an 80-20 blend, which is perfect for quilting. 80% cotton, 20% polyester, which quilts really beautifully. But then when you wash it afterwards in a cold wash, it shrinks very, very slightly and gives you that really handmade look. So if you want to buy all of this, then that's already your whole quilt done. You've got the bundle, the pattern, the backing fabric and the wadding. That's it. You will have it all arrive in one day, so you can just get cracking. So, welcome, Jules.
Hello.
Hello. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you. How are
Have
you?
you been busy?
Yes, I've been very busy.
Very
My
busy.
5 hours intensive work.
And did it take 5 hours?
Yeah, probably slightly less actually.
Okay.
What I would say is it is worthwhile being organised.
Okay.
So it'll only take you 5 hours if you've done your organisation beforehand.
Right, so what do you mean by that?
So when you're cutting your blocks, make sure that you've labelled your blocks and you know what order you're going to put them together.
Okay.
But yeah, it was quite easy to come together. It looks quite complicated and you kind of don't know what the outcome's going to be until you've actually put it together. But I like that kind of diagonal. I think that looks quite nice on it. But you can rotate your blocks. I've done mine exactly as the pattern is, just because that's what you always kind of like us to do. It's supposed to be the lap quilt size, but I was thinking kind of Desperate Dan. When I was thinking lap quilt, it's not really.
That's very big lap.
It is a very big lap quilt, yeah.
No,
yeah.
I think that's more single bed size, isn't it?
Yeah, well, what did we say it was? 60, hang on.
64 by 76.
72 by 84. It's the lap quilt original one.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a decent size. But yeah, it does come together quite nicely, quite quickly. Once you've got yourself organised, which I'll explain to you.
Have you got to choose what you're going to put where then?
So the way that you, in a kind of fashion. So what you'll do, it's unusual when you're cutting it out because normally you'll fold your fabric and then you'll cut your squares out. But on this, you open your 1/2 metre. So iron all your 1/2 metres open and flat, so they'll be 42 or 44 wide, and then obviously your 1/2 metre depth. So iron them all together, and that's where if you have a look at your cutting guide, so this is the first one that you come to in the little leaflet, and this is the cutting guide. So it will show you that you need to be cutting your 8.5 inch squares, 4.5 inch squares, and 4.5 by 8.5. So that relates to 8.5 inch, 4.5 inch, and then your rectangular pieces on there. And what you'll do is you'll lay all your 5 fabrics together. So you can plan it, or you can just be random in how you lay your 5 fabrics together. So once you've chosen them all. And then when you're cutting them, so this is having cut kind of the blocks, just cut it as the cutting guide, it's absolutely fine. You'll have them all kind of a fashion like this, and then the next thing to do is to sort your fabrics. So you'll be putting.
So you cut all 5 layers together.
You do,
Okay.
which is, some people feel it's a bit kind of off-piste and wild, but you know, as long as you've got a decent blade in your rotary cutter, these rulers with the creative grids where you've got the non-slip on the bottom.
Yeah, no, these are really
perfect.
good. So these are on the website if you want to buy one of these. And this is the size that Jules used to do it, because you can cut across the width of the fabric and because they don't slip.
Exactly that.
Because they've got these little...
You don't want any slippages.
Just textured dots, and they have it all around the edge, which I really like, because some of the rulers have the non-slip, but they don't have it around the edge and the dots, so it really doesn't move, which is what you need if you're cutting through 5 layers.
Exactly. So you'll kind of have your little piles of your 8.5 inch, your rectangles, and then your 4.5 inch. And you number your fabrics then 1 to 5. So however you've laid them out, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you just choose that
you
beforehand.
choose, so that's your choosing bit. And then once you've done that, you then start to put your blocks together.
Right.
So as per the kind of layout cutting guide, your first block is going to be, so this is the stage that we're at now where we've separated our fabrics. So your first block is going to be fabric 1. Let's suppose that's what we've chosen as fabric 1. I can't remember what my order is, but I'll have it in a second. So that's your fabric 1, your fabric 2, fabric 3. Let's get one of those, which goes onto the top there. So this
as long as you label one of them, you remember which is which.
Yeah, and then your 4 and 5. So that's going to be my first block.
So every block has one of each colour in it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
so
that's
one
how
goes,
this kind of stepping comes together. Now, what I was thinking when you were showing the fabrics, your third bundle, the pastel bundle, the Liberty that's in there, I'm not sure because I haven't done it, but what you could do is make that a feature fabric and have all of your blocks cut in that one.
Yes.
So that just like pops
so if we
out.
look at that bundle, so this one beautiful peacock Liberty.
I'm not sure, you'll have to check it.
But you could, rather than cutting that into small ones, this could be your big feature one.
I don't know if you get 20 of them out of that, but you could get, say, half of them in that, if you can't get 20, and half in one of the complementaries, and then it would sort of pop out at you a bit more.
Okay.
So you can choose, and obviously, if you want to use the pattern again, you'll be kind of choosing your own fabrics. You could.
Well, that's the beauty, isn't it? Because you get the pattern in here, everything, all the measurements are given to you. So you've got all of the fabrics here, but then you can make it again and again and again.
As many times as you like. And when you see how straightforward the whole process is, then you'll get some ideas as to kind of how quickly it comes together. So, we've moved on to our next stage. So I've got some blocks that I've sewn together, but I'll sew a couple of blocks together so you get the idea. But here you go. So I've got an offcut of the pieces. So actually I chose my number 3 fabric was this one. My number 2 fabric was that one. So I just run little sticky notes and have all of those.
So these were just, when you did the offcuts, you could use that to label.
Yeah, and it just means that when you're putting them together, you get quite organised.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did as well, which I'm notorious at switching blocks around and switching rows around without thinking, because you're busy sewing and then I just pick something else up and it's like, oh, right, okay, that was wrong. So what I did as well was where I knew my blocks were going to be joining together. So this is number 5 block. So I know that those two are going to be joining that way and those two are going to be joining that way. So I had my pin on the side that I was going to sew.
Right.
Just to organise myself a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it makes a bit more kind of impact if you have a directional fabric. So on this one, I'd got the little, the yellow one with all the twine and everything on there and the words on it. And I wanted this to be my top of my quilt. So everything apart from the rectangles are cut so that the writing is correct.
Right,
but the rectangles are cut on the side. So it didn't matter too much, but it just meant that I had got a little bit of direction on there.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of, you need to have a little bit of thought.
If you've got a directional, then that would be what you would do. So you now have your blocks to put together, and I've got 2 left to put together out of this, and then I can show you the rows as they go together. So this is my first block. And what I would do...
So there's only 4 left of the bundle that Jules is working with at the moment. Ooh. So if you want it, you need to check it out because we've got more... there'll be more in baskets than we've actually got available, so you need to get it checked out.
So these are my last 2 blocks to sew. And what you want to do, so you're always trying to keep everything squared up and you're trying not to sew Y seams because that gets a bit more problematic. So the first block that you'll sew together is the bottom one. So that's your square, your 2 4.5s together. And then you'll sew the rectangular and a square together and sew that then onto this.
Okay.
So I'm going to sew the 2 little squares together first of all. And you can pin it if you want to, depending on how you feel about stuff. Usually what I find is, because this is decent cotton, if you kind of rub it together, it'll stay together while you're sewing it. I've got a 1/4 inch foot on here as well. If you're going to use a 1/4 inch foot, use it right from the beginning. Don't go halfway through and decide that that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, okay. I always find, sometimes even if you put fabrics together and you press them together, they sort of stay.
Yeah. Right, okay, so I haven't got me... I get spoilt with the up and down cutting scissor thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, the cutting scissor thing. And then it says to press the seams towards the darker fabric. It actually doesn't matter so much. When you're putting it together, it matters a little bit more, but doesn't matter too much. And I'm going to just put that on there so that I don't forget and put the other one on. And everything should match up reasonably well, especially when you've got your 1/4 inch on there. Nothing too much goes awry, she says. Hoping. Ooh, he's not liking that. There we go. And just hold your seam down if you're going the opposite way on it.
So this quilt is like 5 foot by 6 foot. That's a really decent sized quilt, isn't it?
As you say, it's your single bed size, isn't it?
Yeah. Or
one.
5'4" by 6 foot. That's a really, decent. Because quite often when you buy a quilt, it is normally sort of a 50-inch square or something. It's a smaller thing, so that's a very good size.
You could also, if you didn't want to add any more squares on it, you could also just add another round of border.
Yeah.
If you want to just increase it a little bit more, it wouldn't matter, kind of thing. And then the beauty of this, I love this because there's no seams to match up across this block.
Oh, even better.
So there we go. You can just
that's
pop
so
it
much
on.
nicer. So for a beginner, this is perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely
perfect.
Snap. But I think the other thing as well, it's a confidence builder with this. So you may never have cut multiple layers of fabric before, but it's very straightforward.
Yes, because they're quite simple shapes as well, aren't they? So it's
sizable blocks, simple shapes.
So as a beginner, if you think, I really would like, I don't want one of these lap quilts. I really want a single bed quilt to put on my spare room bed or whatever, or want to make it as a gift for somebody. It's a perfect gift. Then, for under £60, you've got everything you need. Now, the graphics on there at the moment are for the navy and yellow, which is the one that's on the wall behind Jules.
Do you know what?
The red and cream that Jules is working with at the moment is the one that we're very, very short of.
I think we've got canny customers. Because did you see the prices?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. When you said that was the cost for this one.
For a single bed size quilt.
It would definitely have fallen into my basket.
Yeah. It's really good. It is really good, isn't it? It's a good price, and it's nice that you've got the pattern, and if you also, the fact that they've done all the maths, that if you then want to make it bigger or smaller, there's a whole section on how to do this.
On the back that you've got right from King, I think. King down
well, it starts child,
Totes.
and it even tells you how much you need as well of each one.
So
from child lap. I don't understand
the child lap is probably like...
Well, this is the one that you're doing is the lap quilt, but that's a 5 foot by 6 foot quilt.
Yeah, as I say,
it's not really lap, is it?
No.
That is single bed. Because if you have with a single bed with the quilt, it's nice if it just comes sort of... I always put mine just up to the pillows.
Yeah.
That always looks really nice.
Well, they get quite hot, don't they? That's the thing, I think. So...
And then they've even got the mini as well, the measurements for that, which is much smaller. Probably make a couple of those with this. So I mean, that's an amazing value, isn't it?
So you can see how quickly this is coming together.
So it's really good. So if you're a beginner and you want to, it's your first go and you think, I want to make the biggest, a proper size quilt.
Yeah.
Then it gets you started on cutting multiple layers. Which you don't have to do. You can just cut them one by one if you want, but it's a good start, isn't it? And
I think the benefit of doing it how they put it in the instructions is that you won't miss anything. I think the danger of if you kind of decide that you want to do one layer at a time, it's going to take you longer, which is fine, but you might miss say a set of squares or whatever it might be. Whereas on this, you've got 5, that's how it's working.
Yeah, you've got it all. That's true.
Oops. on a little bit.
Like you say, as long as your rotary cutter blade is sharp.
I think that's the key to it, because if it's not, you can be in a bit of trouble. So we've got, these are all the blocks. I don't know if I put them all on here. Oh yeah, well done. Super camera.
Oh, that's a lovely
Super
colourway, isn't it?
So you can, that's your basic look of the blocks, and then you just start to join them together. On the diagram, it's the one I've done is 4 by 5. So you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, okay.
Again, and that's what builds this pattern. But you could equally just kind of rotate them round. You could have quite a different look.
So it'd be worth laying them all out first.
Yeah,
to have a think about how you wanted it to look.
Have a good old play with them if you wanted to. What I'll do is I'll sew 4 together, see how quickly we can get those sewn together, and then I'll show you the binding going on, because it'll be quite interesting to see what the colour variations are with the binding.
Yeah. So depending on how you do it is whether the orientation they've got there gives you like a diagonal line coming through it.
And that's exactly, so if you've got, I kept the blocks, so my main fabric was my fabric 1, for example, fabric 2, fabric 3, fabric 4. So when you've made your blocks, that's what your numbers relate to.
So
it's
the
big
yellow
block.
on that one is more dominant, I guess, because it diagonally goes through the sort of the centre.
And for me, that was my block 4. So it just, you know, just shows you. So if you want it to go the diagonal, that's your block on the 4 by 5 quilt. That's your block 4 that goes down.
Okay, so the pattern has sold out. There are less than 20 of the navy and yellow, and how many of the red one? Yeah, so the red one that Jules is doing now as well, there's more people who've got it in baskets. So there's more people who've got that in baskets than we've got, so you need to check out if you want the one that Jules is doing. But the pastel, we do have some stock left of. Well, there's a few of that one. But this is a fantastic price, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And you know, you can order it, and if you get the backing fabric and the wadding, that's it. That's your whole kit done. That's next week sorted.
Yeah. Well, because I suppose, so it takes 5 hours to sew. And I suppose in that 5 hours, I didn't cut in the 5 hours, but I pieced and everything else in the 5 hours. So cutting took me a little bit longer, just because I don't like to cut and sew on the same kind of run.
No, I know what you mean.
Just
you
the me thing.
Yeah, you do need a sort of a break between them, don't you? I think otherwise you tend to rush the cutting a bit, because you think, right, I've got to cut it, I've got to make it, but cutting is kind of a one time only job, isn't it? If you get it wrong, you've got to make a difference. And also,
sort of
there's
quilt.
nothing nicer than starting a new day when you've got all these little strips labelled and laid out on your table, just waiting for you.
Yeah, I agree. Now,
but although sometimes you cut it all out and you think, oh, I wonder what it'll look. I'll just make one block.
Well, some people make the block up and then carry on with the quilt, don't they? But I don't know whether it's. I think I'm too impatient.
It depends on the block. If it's quite a complicated one, I'll make one block so I know how it works.
Yeah.
And then I'll production line all the others.
See, I never do. I'll go for it.
Oh no!
I live with my errors. If
no, I always like think, oh, I've got to see how this works, so I don't, because I have done it before where I've then made them in production line, but made the same mistake on each and had to undo them. I made a penguin quilt, and every single face, and there were 20 penguins, the eyes were wrong.
Oh, bless.
On every single one, so I had to unpick all the penguins, take all their eyes out, to make new eyes, and the eyes was the smallest block. The smallest part of the whole thing, and all they
They
I looked at them and
disintegrate,
thought,
don't they?
what's wrong with them? And I think maybe there was a gap was too big between their eyes, but they just all looked wrong. So I had to unpick, and that's why I thought never again, because all their eyes were wrong. And it was a really nice quilt, and it was one of those.
And then it wasn't.
Well, it wasn't too bad, but I just knew it looked wrong.
Now, at home, please forgive me, because you're probably going to go, she's not cut her blocks down, she's not pressed a thing. I normally do trim the blocks, and I normally do press, but,
time.
I'm not today. But what you'll find is, so up until now, I've not really been bothered about where the seams have been. I've just been like sewing.
Yeah.
The only time that you have to bother where your seams are is when you put your rows together.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Just because you're matching.
They do need to match.
Yeah, you're matching lines and stuff. And because it's very angular in that regard, then you will want to look. And when you are matching, it says to have pressed, which we have all religiously pressed these. Obviously, towards the more dark fabric. So if I just show you here, so that's gone to the dark, that's gone to the dark. So that means that you can, what we call nest our seams here. So that's matching up the seam going from like the sewing down up towards the edges and just matching where it butts up and pop a pin in that. I don't, again, pins are not the thing that I usually use, but it does help when you're doing this kind of thing. And I would normally put it down the split.
Okay.
And then
so you just sort of push them
again
until they...
Yeah, you kind of wriggle them. And if they're like facing the opposite way, they'll... I can't do my hands that way. They'll do that. No, that.
Just like butt up. Yeah, I guess, I mean, if they don't match exactly, it's not the end of the world, because once you quilt it, you won't notice anyway.
No, and as you say, once it's gone through the wash maybe or whatever, or you've had a squiggly person sitting on it.
Unless you're entering a quilt competition.
Which we can't do at the minute, unfortunately.
No, so it just doesn't really matter.
Doesn't.
It's like I always think it's nice to give it a go, and probably 80% of them will match up, but, you know, if they don't, well, then... Yeah.
Well, that's what makes them organic and personal, I think.
Yeah, I bet if you look at really old quilts, none of the seams matched up. But then they did sew them all by hand.
And also the material that they had to just make do with what they got. So if, you know, if it didn't match up because they hadn't got enough of it, well, that was it.
Then it becomes crazy patchwork, doesn't it?
Right, okay, so this is a mini lap quilt with 4 blocks.
This is like a floor cushion.
Yeah. Well, you could actually. Could be a nice one. But there you go. So I didn't really kind of think about how that was coming together, but you can see that then you've got those ones that are kind of coming to the fore. So that's looking nice, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's
I did
lovely.
wonder when I got the sample how this red would fit in, but it fits in nicely, doesn't it? It's quite a strong colour, but it fits in nicely.
Yeah, and it picks it out. So you've got about 15 minutes.
Okay,
which
so
isn't bad, is it?
Let's do some.
I know when you think you've got 4 blocks done already.
Let's do some.
You know, the
binding.
red, that sort of terracotta picks up the colour from the flowers. But anyway, that bundle's sold out.
Oh.
So that's for the inner border.
So the inner border and the binding are
Okay.
made of the same. So you've got 2.5 strips, 2.5 strips that we like. On your quilt, where if you're doing this size, you will join 2 strips together. Obviously on this, I don't really need to. So you do your left and your right, up to the tops and down to the bottoms, chop them off, cut them nicely. And then you do the whole across, whole strip across. So let's give it a whirl and see what we can get to. So again, no pins.
This is
No
pinless
pins.
quilting. Pinless speed quilting.
Pinless speed quilting.
When you're at home,
I do it like this.
don't use speed. Well, it doesn't matter, does it? It's your quilt. You can do it however you like. I have found now, because I've started now, well, I have for a while, but it makes a difference, is I always press my seams after I've sewn them, and then I'll press them to one side.
Yeah.
But now, if I'm putting like a binding on or a border, I'll press it on and then pin it on together at the same time, and it does actually make it stay together better. And I've found, then, you know, when you've got to stretch a border slightly to fit because of all the piecing, it does fit better.
Yeah. Right, okay. If you kind of pull it gently, but not too much. I haven't got a bias. I've not cut anything on the bias, so it's okay. But just to be a bit careful. Right, okay.
But I guess you cut all the borders out before you start, do you?
Yeah.
So you know that it's the right length.
Oh no, it's not going to be the right length. Sorry.
No, when you do when you do the normal quilt, you cut the borders.
No.
Oh, you don't. Oh, okay.
So, well, you cut the borders and sew them together, and then they'll hang off like this.
Ah, right.
So
okay.
you then
you cut them and then you use them for the next one. Oh, I see. So you just make one really long border.
No. Sorry. I'm not explaining myself well, am I? Right, so you'll sew 2 of these pieces together.
Yes.
Use 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and you'll have bits left over.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't cut the borders to exactly the right length before you start.
Do not.
Right.
And I haven't taken the selvage off either because I quite often, I'll just see if there's any wriggle room on it, because it will be hidden out of the way even if you do happen to sew into the selvage. But I just find it gives you a better edge when you're cutting across the top and the bottom.
Okay.
So on my 1/4 inch foot, you're thinking I'm going woo freestyling. On my 1/4 inch foot, I have got a guide on it, which is keeping the.
I know that's the beauty of a 1/4 inch foot, isn't
Yeah.
it? You don't have to concentrate so much because it has that.
Got kink in
Well,
it.
not all of them do, though, do
No,
they?
my one at home doesn't. This one does.
Has that little lip,
Yeah.
which is useful like that if you if you want something to match up.
I just had a little bit of extra material on there, but I've just gone through it anyway. So we'll just, and then top and bottom I could really do with trimming that down, because I've got quite a wiggly edge there. So I might just trim that one down, otherwise it's going to go very skew with. So the next layer that's going on is a wider border.
Okay,
So I'm
on,
just gonna.
Yeah, so on the one on the wall, that's the white one,
Yeah.
and in the pastel bundle, that must be this terracotta-y one. Yeah, because that's the widest one.
So I'm just lining up my straight line on the ruler with the seams that I've got, because that's going to be the straightest thing about it so far. Because that edge really wasn't going to be straight. There's poetic license and poetic license. Right, okay. So let's do the top and bottom. So now you'll press those nicely. And then you'll attach top and bottom.
Okay. Again, from your 2 join strips.
Yeah, I think we're still, because this is a smaller thing, I think we're still okay with this. It's getting quite long now. Something was running out. No, don't run out on me. I just want to get it so that you can see what the other colour looks like when it's on. So you get the whole kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see, isn't it? That's why I'm always a bit impatient. I want to sort of see what it all like. Now I've cut it all up, what does it all look like when you're doing it back together again?
So just tuck those under. And so when you've sewn the horizontal strips on, it will go over your inner border there. So you've got a complete square going around. And then kind of outlines it. But as you say, this could be just 4 blocks could be a big floor cushion, couldn't it?
That's what it looks like, doesn't it?
And you wouldn't necessarily need to put the other border on. You could use that as the backing.
Yeah,
if you were
well,
gonna
that's
do it
it.
that way.
Once you've got your pack home, read the instructions, look at all the different measurements. If you want to make a bigger quilt, use some fabrics from your own stash, because it tells you. So say you want to make a king size one, it tells you how much extra you need. So you can use the bundle you've got as a starting point, because most of us have a rather large fabric stash. So you can just use up some of that to add onto it.
And there were, after I'd cut all the blocks out, there were pieces left. I can't tell you how many, but probably another couple of blocks worth, I would say.
The cushion for the bed.
Yeah.
2 cushions, nice. We go with it.
Hello. There we go. Right. So we'll do the other border now.
So with the other border, you do the same thing. You cut wider strips.
Yep.
I'm reading this now, so now I know you cut 2 strips. Sew 2 together to make 1 long one.
That's it.
So this is, so you haven't got, it is helping you with that margin of error in that you're not matching seams when you cut the blocks.
Yeah.
It's much easier sewing these on.
And what I did was I made sure that on the borders, when I did sew the seams, I sewed the seams flat, as in that against that.
Right, rather than diagonal ones.
And when I did the binding, I did the diagonal.
Oh, okay.
So I sewed them together like that. Just because this is so vertical and horizontal, it looked better.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So sometimes it's nice to join diagonally, but because of it being all very linear, a diagonal seam in the border would have looked odd.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good tip.
And let's see how much of this we get done.
And I guess, and you don't need to cut the binding on a bias anyway, do you?
No.
Because it's not curving. Right, you've got about 5 minutes.
I'll get one probably on then.
Well, it'd be nice to see
Yes.
the smaller version.
So again, we do left
Well, also
and
it's a
right
nice inspiration to see different colourways, isn't it? And then think, how colours are put together and what works. It's nice to sort of see other choices.
Yeah, because sometimes you wouldn't necessarily put it in there. Like I say, that the red tiles, I wouldn't have thought about that. I would have thought it would have taken over too much, but it doesn't at all. Sits in nicely. And maybe you could pick out, for your backing, you could pick out the red, or you could pick out a blue even.
Yeah.
So any of the backings would look nice.
I know it's always difficult with the backing because you think, well, I don't want to, put waste fabric on it, but then when you've spent all that time, it's nice to back it with something lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like backing quilts with brush cotton.
Yeah.
Makes them cosier.
Kind of a fleecier sort of feel, doesn't it?
Well, some people actually do that with quilts, don't they? They don't even put wadding; they just put fleece on the back
Yeah.
and then quilt through. I've never done that. Have you ever tried?
I think that's the modern way of kind of doing quilts now, isn't it?
Okay.
So each generation has an improvement on the previous,
right.
don't they?
I wonder how well it works. I'm sure the purists would say it's not a good idea.
Well, there are always different opinions, aren't there? But I think it does work quite well, actually. I'm sure people, our viewers have done that. Maybe they can tell us.
yes. So if you have used fleeced as quilts, so like all-in-one, and you haven't used backing, wadding, can you let us know? I've never done it. I'd love to know because it's a bit more stretchier fleece. I wonder if there's any sort of particular tips to use it, and does it look as good as traditional quilting?
I'm just gonna.
Because it must be a lot quicker because you've got no layers. I suppose you've got to tack it all together though.
Yeah. Although the basting sprays or the pins
True.
and stuff. It's
And fleece has sort of got a slight, well, it's not sticky, but it clings.
Yeah.
A clinginess to it.
That's what I quite like about the 80-20 wadding as well, because that does
Yes, I do.
a bit of stickiness.
Mm.
Right, okay.
The best tip I heard about this wadding was when you unfold it, and I've done it, and it's got all big creases in it, is to just put a hairdryer on it.
Oh, that's
now,
interesting.
who told me that? Can't remember. I think it might have been Sally Ann, not sure. Somebody told me that if you just, because I've tried leaving it and the folds in it, because when you buy it comes all folded, they're hard to get rid of, it gets a bit bumpy. Somebody told me if you just put a hairdryer on it does work as well. It sort of flattens
That's
it out a bit.
interesting. Right, we are. Probably not going to get much more on this.
Oh no, but it's a really
fair,
nice.
but-
We've sort of seen how you've started by cutting it and then joining the blocks. I think it is worth spending the time though to rearrange the blocks and
Yes.
see what you like, because they don't have to be done in that configuration.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea, kind of what there. And then we'd have another one. Let's put another one, pretend one. Well, they're actual, but top and bottom. And then you'd have your binding, which is this chartreuse again. So
Oh, of
on
course,
there.
yes. So the
Yeah.
inner border and the binding is the same colour,
Yeah.
which
So
is
that'd be
nice
that.
actually, because it frames that fabric then, doesn't it?
Sorry, I'm running out of desk now, but you know what? You
Yes,
kind of get
run out of desk, but we can see.
you're getting the idea. And then you'd have that going.
Yeah, so because
Along
you've
the
got the
edge again.
binding around the edge, it picks that inner border up.
Do
It
that
makes it
again.
stand out, doesn't it?
So
We've got a
that would
message
be
from Leslie. What is the message from Leslie? I used to use my granddaughter's quilt, and it was quick, and she loved the feel. She walks around it cuddling, walks around with it cuddling. Love Leslie. There you go, and it was quick.
So there you go. That's probably as much as we can.
Yeah, no, that's
Do.
lovely. That's really nice. But it's interesting. Actually, the white sort of stands out
Yeah,
most in that one. I don't know why.
probably because it's in the middle. It kind of draws your eye,
Right.
maybe.
So that's where you need to have a little plan.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't need to plan it till you cut it out, do you? Because
No.
all the things are all
Everything's
the
the
same.
same until you start blocking it.
And start joining it
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
Well, that's lovely. That's brilliant. And I love the way that the inner border and the binding's the same. I think that's really nice. Nice colourway. Thank you very much, Jules.
You're very
That's
welcome.
been fantastic. So you'll be back with us at 11 o'clock
Indeed.
with wine bottles.
With wine.
Looking forward. Could you
With
bring
empty wine bottles,
empty
I'm
wine
afraid.
bottles.
Sorry.
Can you bring a couple of glasses as
Sorry.
well? It's 11 o'clock. Sure, you're allowed to quick little sneaky
Snifter.
glass of wine at 11 o'clock with your 11s.
I think possibly
It's
not.
February now, so we're allowed to.
I'm allowed chocolate now.
Oh, did you
Yeah,
give up chocolate for
I gave up
January?
chocolate for January. So this morning I have my pain au chocolat.
Oh, how nice. Oh, that's very impressive. God, that must have been difficult though.
I have to say that for February I now have to give up snacks. The snacks that I took to replace the chocolate.
So you're now going to give up the salt. Oh, it's not good, is it?
No, there's always a something.
So I'm just going to recap. The bundle that's on the wall behind Jules is the navy and yellow one. And in that one, you get 1.5 meters of this white fabric, but it is a white print. It's not a plain white. It's got a really nice white on white print. That's the outer border. Then you get 1 meter of the lilac with the dandelions on it, and that's the inner border and the binding. And then you get 0.5 meter each of these 5 fabrics that are used for the patchwork blocks, 2 of which are Liberty. So you've got this lovely navy one with green and a pale blue flower, and then this one that's navy on, well, like almost a lilac colour on a dark navy. Those are the 2 Liberty ones. Sticker's coming off. Then you get this lovely Riley Blake yellow. That's a really bright shade, isn't it? Well, sort of primrose yellow. You get a subtle, more like a grey tone, more floral print, and a navy and white stripe. So $58.99, and the pattern as well. That's enough fabric in there to make a single bed size quilt, 64 by 76 inches. So now when everyone has checked out of this, we have only got single figures left. So if you want this one, I mean, this is really, you know, get this home, you can start making that. That's everything you need for the quilt top there. We've got another message from Sharon. Hi all, I made a lap quilt for my dad at Christmas using only a fleece on the back. It had a nice weight and was warm. That's really interesting, isn't it? It's obviously, I know it's not the traditional way, but you know, things have to evolve, doesn't it? People used to make quilts just by hand sewing. Can you imagine when someone going, oh, I've used a machine? All those hand sewers probably went, oh, that's not real. But, you know, if you think of a really snuggly quilt, depends what you want to do with it. You know, if you just want to make something that's really comfy and cosy, then why not? Or give it a go. If you've not done it before, get some fleece, give it a go. Even if it's just for something small, try it for, say, a small lap quilt or just the back of a cushion or something. Give it a go and see what you think, because processes evolve all the time and there are no stitch police. You can do whatever you want. So I'm going to give it a go because for some things I don't really want to do the whole layering business, so it might be worth it. Right, the other bundle that we have left is the pastel one, which does have some pastel colours in it and some bright colours in it, but it is called pastel. There's only 7 of these remaining. So you get 1.5 meters of this terracotta fabric, which is for the outer border. You then get... I've put these out of order, haven't I? There we go. Which is the meter? Is it the pink? I should know because I can feel it. That one's the meter. This one. You get 1 meter of... Oh, that's the same print, but in a different colour. That's the inner border and the binding. I know this really well now. Then you get 0.5 meter of each of the other 5 fabrics. So you get 0.5 meter of this lovely Liberty fabric with the peacocks in it. Then you get 0.5 meter of white, but it's a white on white. So it's got a really lovely floral print on it, which when you've made it up, you will see it doesn't show up very well on the TV. Then you get 0.5 meter of this lovely sort of pink splash fabric and 0.5 meter of vibrant yellow, which is lovely because it echoes the yellow tones in that Liberty, and then 0.5 meter of turquoise again, which picks up the peacock colours. So 50. Oh, this one is $49.99. Because that one only has one Liberty fabric. $49.99. Oh, and the pattern, obviously. That's the whole quilt top, 5 meters of fabric. Now, if you want to get all of this at home and you want to get on with it and done, then you will need to back your quilt. So we have got pre-cut 4 meter bundles of fabric. Now we've got a crimson. That one's on screen at the moment. So I think this will be really good for the red and green bundle if you've bought it. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. You can choose whatever colour you want on it. You don't have to use this as a quilt backing. You can add it to your stash. You know, this is just if you want to take the whole lot home with you. So $26.99 for the crimson bundle. That's the one that's on screen, and that's enough to back the whole of this quilt. Or if you want the cream bundle, which is just coming up, the cream is just coming in. Again, you get 4 meters of the cream, $26.99. It's the normal quilting weight fabric. You'll have to join it together. It's not the extra wide, but this is enough to back your quilt. So if you've bought one of the bundles and you want to just get on with it, this is enough for that. And if you need some wadding, this is my favourite wadding, the 80-20. 80-20 wadding, 80% cotton, 20% polyester. It's a really lovely quality. This is more than enough because you always, I mean, the quilt is 64 by 76. People always recommend you buy at least 8 inches bigger than the quilt. So you would need 72 by, no, you wouldn't, you'd need 74, I can't even add up. by 84. So you've got more than enough there for the quilt and a little bit extra. And this is a lovely quality wadding, because I think if you have spent the money and the time on doing the quilt, use a decent wadding, and this really is a nice wadding. So that's your whole quilt kit. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I think it's lovely. It's lovely to see some very complex makes, but it's really nice to see something that's achievable, that you feel that you can finish as well. So if you want the whole lot, it's all here. It's like your whole kit. So I will see you back here in couple of minutes. We've got a whole selection of sewing tools, some really lovely ones. So I think you'll enjoy the next hour of different tools that you may or may not have used before, but great things to add to your workroom. So I'll see you back in a couple of minutes.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street, and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So, number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day, and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand, because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick and pick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. We'll see you soon.
Hello everyone, my name's Cara Ackerman and I'm absolutely delighted to be here at Sewing Street. I actually originated from Hertfordshire, then went down to Hampshire and then it ended up in the East Midlands. I've been in the East Midlands for about 40 years now, which seems crazy, but 36 of those I actually worked with DMC Creative World, which was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed that. And then I decided to go freelance, and that's how I got introduced to Sewing Street. I love doing anything to do with textiles, so embroidery, cross stitch, patchwork, done a bit of quilting, bag making, toy making, oh goodness, there's loads and loads of things. What I love doing is just trying something new, and I think one of the tips is don't be frightened of trying something new. You always learn from it, and you know, don't be scared of making mistakes either. We all learn from the mistakes that we make. Little bit about me that you might not know, and that's a bit of a surprise. I once went to the garden party down at Buckingham Palace, the Queen's garden party, for some work that I did with Marie Curie. I was so lucky to go there, and just a wonderful time. So I hope to see more of you on Sewing Street, and I hope to try lots of new crafts with you. So see you again soon. Bye-bye.
In need of a crafting fix? There are so many ways you can watch Sewing Street and Yarn Lane. Sewing Street is live from 8 AM to 1 PM every day on Freeview 72 and Sky 670. Alternatively, if you want to watch us on a tablet or on the move, you can tune in on our YouTube channel, the Sewing Street app, or the websites at www.sewingstreet.com and www.yarnlane.com. You can watch past shows on Sky 670 from 1 PM every day, as well as our YouTube channel, the app, and our website. Yarn Lane is on from 12 PM to 1 PM. Visit our programme guide to find out when and what's on. So you never have to spend a minute without us.
While we're having to spend more time at home again, we're here to keep you busy and entertained. Sewing Street will be live every day from 8 AM, bringing you plenty of demonstrations with our experts in dressmaking, quilting, bag making, toy making, needle felting, embroidery, and so much more. Our community of fellow sewists on the Sewing Street Fans Facebook group are there to chat to you about whatever you're making, sharing photos and advice. Check out the Sewing Street Facebook and Instagram pages for fun competitions and offers. If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Stuck for ideas for the perfect gift? Why not get them a gift card? You can buy Sewing Street and Yarn Lane gift cards loaded up with anything from £10 to £500. Shop our gift cards online at www.sewingstreet.com or www.yarnlane.com, or purchase them via our UK call centre on 0800 001 44 33. Follow Sewing Street and Yarn Lane on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with what's coming up on the show, as well as being the first to know about our amazing offers. Get involved with our competitions that are exclusive to social media. And pick up some top tips from us too. In need of a crafting fix? There are so many ways you can watch Sewing Street and Yarn Lane. Sewing Street is live from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. every day on Freeview 72 and Sky 670. Alternatively, if you want to watch us on a tablet or on the move, you can tune in on our YouTube channel, the Sewing Street app, or the websites at www.sewingstreet.com and www.yarnlane.com. You can watch past shows on Sky 670 from 1 p.m. every day, as well as our YouTube channel, the app, and our website. Yarn Lane is on from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Visit our programme guide to find out when and what's on. So you never have to spend a minute without us. Stuck for ideas for the perfect gift? Why not get them a gift card? You can buy Sewing Street and Yarn Lane gift cards loaded up with anything from £10 to £500. Shop our gift cards online at www.sewingstreet.com or www.yarnlane.com, or purchase them via our UK call centre on 0800 001 44 33.
And welcome back to Sewing Street. Oh, we have got such a selection of tools for you here. It's all random. It's all random, but lovely. Random loveliness. Now, this I like. I haven't seen this one before. So, I need to hold it up because you can't really see it very well on there. It is massive ruler. We don't often show it on air, and I think on the website you don't really see the scale of it. But it's just brilliant. So it is 20 inches square. Now, if you're using the normal ruler, let me just take it off the wall. The normal one is brilliant because you can cut the full width of fabric with it. And if you want to cut, because this is 8 inches, then you can cut 8-inch strips. But if you've got to cut anything bigger than the 8-inch width, you then have to measure to cut. And that's really annoying. And quite often, if you're cutting, say you're doing a quilt and you're cutting 10-inch squares, like the quilt behind me, this is perfect. So you can cut your strips. You can cut, well, you know, any size. It's obviously is exactly the same as all the other Creative Grid rulers. It's got, let me turn it over, it's got the lovely grip all round the edge and loads of dots. I like the fact that it's got the dots going diagonally at the centre because it has got that line on it all over. But for a ruler this size, you don't want it moving. But the thing is, it's really heavy, so it won't. So if you've got to cut, I mean, the normal rulers are about 6 inches. I like this one because this one is 8.5. so that you've got that bit of extra flexibility. But when you want to cut all the big strips, so if you're doing a big quilt with lots of piecing and lots of cutting, this is perfect. Now I know $49.99, so you know it's something that you will got to think about, but it's such a useful ruler. In the same way that my favourite ruler is the 6-inch square, perfect for all those little things where you want to keep turning around. This is ideal because I always know that once I get bigger than a 6-inch strip, I've then got to measure and mark and then cut because it's not big enough. So this just so many times when you need something like this. I like the fact it has got the 45-degree angle all the way down the centre. So if you're cutting strips on the bias and you're cutting long strips, you can do it with this because you've got a lot of strips. So you lay that across the fabric and then you can cut. You've got the angles, which is great. And with all Creative Grid rulers, it's got all the 1/8 and 1/4 inch marks all the way through it, not just on the edges, but all the way along. Now this is heavy. It's a big piece, but the way that our postage works, fantastically. It's only $3.95. Doesn't matter how much you order. And do you know what? If you took this down to the post office, it would cost you more than $3.95. So that's an absolute bargain. But that's just if you're doing a lot of cutting and a lot of piecing, this is worth its weight in postage. It's absolutely perfect. So I love that. So we have had it for a while, but it's been on the website, and I don't think until you see it, you see how great it is. And obviously anyone who's used Creative Grids knows how good it is that you have this lovely textured grippy surface around the edges and all the dots across and all the measurements and the angles. This is a lovely thing. I've also got another ruler that I really like. Again, I haven't seen this one. This is the opposite end of a very small one. So now, obviously, this is like, as in your normal one, this is an alpha one. It's got all of the measurements marked on it, all the inches and the 1/8 and the 1/4. And, let me just see if you can see it. It is 1.5 inches wide. But it's really useful if you're cutting very narrow strips. So say you've got to cut 1/2-inch strips, or it goes up to 1.5 inch because you're making some binding or something like that. Using the bigger rulers is a bit cumbersome, too unwieldy. But something like this is perfect. So because it's a rotary cutting ruler, obviously it's ideal for using with your rotary cutter to cut the narrow strips. But it's just perfect for measuring. And the best thing is, it starts at the beginning. So unlike your normal rulers where there's a bit of extra, this starts at the beginning. So it's really ideal. You know, when you've got to measure something and it says mark a 6-inch line or leave a 5-inch gap, for having a ruler like this and clear. Now, the ruler that I use at home for measuring all the time is a metal one, and it's perfect because it starts at the beginning and I love it. It's very solid. It's very clear, but this is better because you can see through it. So whenever I'm marking and measuring everything, rather than using a tape measure, which I use for measuring fabric, if I'm marking things, I like to use a solid ruler. I find it's more accurate than using a tape measure. I find, even if I'm measuring, if I want to measure accurately from a tape measure, I always start a little bit in as well, because I always worry that the beginning of the tape measure, if it's a wound up one, might have gone baggy. But this is perfect because it's clear. It's also great for marking seam allowances on something, because it's got all of the markings. It's got quarter. If you need to add a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to something, you can very easily line the 1/4 of an inch mark up with the edge of the fabric and draw along it. That's just perfect. That is a great piece of equipment. So $6.99. It's ideal for FPP, if you need to add for FPP where you've got to trim afterwards for 1/4 of an inch, it's great for that. If you're doing EPP and you're cutting out hexagons and you've got the hexy paper shapes and you need to cut the fabric ones 1/4 of an inch big, it's perfect for that. It's just a really good size. So it's like a school ruler, but better. It's better. You can't, obviously, because you can't, for cutting, you can't use a normal ruler. You have to use one of these. But for just measuring, it's actually better than a school ruler because it's clear and because it's got all of that markings on it. It's perfect for $6.99. That is a great addition to your workroom. I would actually quite like both of these because I've got a 6-inch square and I've got the 24-inch strip, but I haven't got either of those, so quite fancy those. We've also got a question about my cutting mat. I have 2 cutting mats. So we have got, should we start off with the super big? The super one, and then we'll do the ruler back. So this one we use on the table quite a lot of the time. It's only just back in stock and it is massive. It's the largest one that we do. I'm going to take everything off so you can have a look. So it's your normal cutting mat, self-healing, double-sided, cut on it forever. If you're using a rotary cutter and a ruler, you must use a cutting mat, otherwise you will cut your table to pieces. This is, it's double-sided, as in it's metric on one side and imperial on the other. I've got it on the metric side at the moment. What I like about it is it has all the measurements around the edge, but it also has them across the centre as well. It's got 45-degree angles, 60 and 30. And if I turn it over, it's got imperial on the other side, which I love. My cutting mat is only imperial. I'd like metric on the other side. I mean, now I would, if I was you, go for the largest size cutting mat that you can get and can fit onto your table, because it's always nice to have more space rather than less. Now this one is 34 inches by 22 inches, which is a fantastic size, because if you're cutting normal quilting fabric and you want to cut across the full width, you can fold it in half and it will fit that way. And then if you've got wider fabric than that and you want to cut it and you cut it in half, it will fit across the 34-inch way. You can turn it round whichever way you want. So if you're cutting wider fabric, you can cut it that way. But having the extra space, because obviously if you're cutting a strip and you cut it and then you need to move it, that's when inaccuracy comes in. So the larger the cutting mat you've got, I mean, obviously it's unavoidable sometimes if you are cutting not through double width, you've got to cut across. But if possible and you can just cut once, it will be more accurate, because there's so much movement in fabric that once you cut it, it almost adheres to the mat. So you have to be very careful as you shift it along. So the better, if you've got a table big enough, I would get one of these. And I love the fact, because I have an imperial ruler and a metric, because some patterns that I'm cutting are imperial and some are in metric. So if you buy US patterns or UK, they're often in imperial, but any European patterns and some UK ones can be in metric. So that's why I have one of each ruler, but I don't, my cutting mat is only imperial, so I'm going to have to get one of these. Perfect. And this is really heavy. So you think that ruler was heavy? This is really heavy. And again, it'll only be the £3.95 postage. This is something I would like. Yeah, we've also got a puzzle coming up, and it'd be very good for doing puzzles on. Don't let anyone use it for sticking though. If you want to do sticking or gluing, buy a different cutting mat and use it for something else, because sometimes I've had kids at home, not now, they were a bit older, when they were younger. Oh, I'm just going to use your mat. No, do not put any glue near my mat. Very important. If you want to do sticking and gluing, go to school. Don't do that on my cutting mat. So it is a great thing. Now, one thing to remember with cutting mats, you must store them flat. I know that you think, oh, I'm tempted, but they bend and they move. And once they start bending, they will warp. So store it flat. If you can't store it on the table, store it under the table or under the bed or something. Or, you can store them upright if they can be held absolutely flat, but you need to keep them flat because they don't like it otherwise. Don't bend or roll. Also, don't iron on it. Doesn't like that. Doesn't like the heat. And I've had my cutting mat for, I think, about 20 years, and I've still got the same cutting mat. So if you look after it, it will last a very, very long time. Yeah, so you can wash them, strangely, and that sort of reactivates the healing. I've got a nether one here. So if you need a nether one for sticking and gluing. So this is the next. So if you haven't got space for the big one, this one is a bit smaller, or sometimes if I'm using a cutting mat, I mean, I have got a rotating one, but if I want to be able to turn it round, you can use it like that. This is a bit lighter weight and a bit smaller. Again, imperial on one side. So this one is 23 by 17 inches. And then you've got metric on that side. It's got all the angles. So if you've got a smaller space, or you want a different cutting mat, or if you want one for sticking and gluing, then this is ideal, because this will fit, and it's an A2 size. So it's 420 by 594, so 42 by 59 centimetres if you want to know that size. But again, it's self-healing. It's what you need to be able to cut it. But sometimes even cut out on my ironing board, just because that's where I happen to be, and so you need a smaller... So what I often have on my ironing board, I keep moving it around. I've got my cutting mat, and then I have my light box as well on the end of it. And then I have to be very careful not to touch either with any heat. But my ironing board is just a really good height, particularly because you can adjust it. So sometimes you need things to be a bit higher. I don't like measuring on a work surface. I like doing that on an ironing board because it's the right height. But it's very sturdy. It's a good ironing board. So next, I'm going to show you. Now I've convinced you need to buy lots of rulers. Again, you don't have to store rulers flat because they are perspex, they are standard, but they're better. They're better flat, because if you lean them against the wall, then they end up falling over and breaking. But what you really need is one of these, a ruler rack. It's solid wood. Look at that. It's amazing, isn't it? But it goes either way. Yeah, but so it depends on how many you've got and how you want to do it. They will actually work upright, but it depends. Sorry, it sounds like I'm talking to Hannah. It depends where you're storing them. If you are storing it on a table where you've only got that space, you need to store them that way. You can store. Should we try the big one? You do need to look after your rulers. I also like the fact if you've got your table with all of these rulers in, you look like a real professional in a shop. And look, there's another one. You see, it works. You can store them any which way you want. I can't quite get out of there. But with the big square one, you'd have to do it like that. So if you have got a few rulers, because I find with mine, I've got 4 rulers. Because I have metric and imperial and different sizes, that when I'm then cutting, I have to get all of the others and move them off and put them somewhere else, so I've got a nice clear space. But a ruler rack means that you can just have them on the side of your table, like a perspex cube. So let me put those to one side. Right. What shall we do next, Hannah? Roll and press. Have we got one of these out? Oh, yes, we have. Now, this is ideal for when you just want to do a little bit of quick ironing, but you don't want to get your iron out. But when you look at them, this is a bit, for me, it's a bit like those bias binding makers that you think they can't work because they're just a bit of plastic, aren't they? These are brilliant, though. So these are great if you want to press open a seam, but you don't want to go over to the ironing board, or it's just a little seam and you just want to give it a quick press before you go to sew, because although it's just plastic, it really does press a seam open really nicely. The other thing it's really good for is anything that you can't iron, like vinyl or leather or very, very fine fabric like voile or something that's a synthetic fabric. If you're using, I often use shower curtains to line things because it's a bit cheaper, and you can't even go and stand near an iron with a shower curtain without it melting. Even looking at the iron and it'll melt. If you use proper PVC fabric, it doesn't. But so these rollers are perfect for that. So if you were making as well, if you're into textile art and you're making your own fabrics and textiles and you don't want to be ironing, anything that's either synthetic or that could melt, then this is ideal for. And with leather in particular, if you're sewing with leather, they always use these rollers. But I use them mainly when I can't be bothered, or it's just a small seam and I don't want to go over to the ironing board. You can use them. A lot of people use them when they're doing FPP to just quickly open the seam to do the next thing. So although it looks like just a piece of plastic. They are incredibly effective. And they don't, as well, you know, if you have to be very careful when you put heat and steam on fabric because it can distort it, particularly if your fabric's cut on the bias. If you want to be particularly careful with something, or maybe you've got something really, really small, like little half square triangles where you won't be able to get at it with the iron, or if you're using a fabric that's got, say, sequins in it and that you can't press, this is perfect. So this is the hand version of the iron. And it's one of those tools, really, really useful workroom tool that only really does one thing, but it does it very, very well. So that's that one. Oh, should we do the ironing thingy, which is called a stiletto? Do we have one of those open, Hannah? So I'll take it out. Right. So this is when we were talking about if you want to iron something, but you don't want to touch it because, especially because I nearly always iron with steam. The number of times I've burnt my fingers because the steam's come off it, and I've been holding a seam down. You know, particularly say it says turn over 1/4 of an inch. Have you ever tried turning over 1/4 of an inch and not burning your fingers? But this, it is completely heat proof. So if you're holding a piece of fabric and you want to hold it down, you can hold it down with the end of here and then take your fingers away and it will press. And sometimes you just need that because you're just turning, maybe, you know, when you're hemming something and you have got to turn over 1/4 of an inch along one side and then 1/4 of an inch along the other, and you just need to hold it down. It's perfect for that. The other end is really useful for when you need to hold seams down. So maybe you're sewing two pieces of fabric together that have been seamed, and you've got a seam on the top, and you need the seam that you've pressed open to stay flat. You can just hold it down with that. So it's perfect for holding things down, but also because it's heat resistant, you can iron with it as well. And it's clover. You know, clover's always really, really good quality. But it's quite nice. I quite like the fact it's got that tiny little bit. Great for sort of holding things down. And nice that it's heat resistant as well. So again, this is one of those tools that is perfect for what it's designed for. And you can hold it. Also, sometimes if you want to hold a seam down and you're worried about sewing over your fingers, you know, at least if you've got that, you know, you're safe. Now, I've got to get it back in here carefully. Oh, I'm sure that's going to happen. I think I'll just leave it. I think I'll just leave that till later. Should we just leave that till later? Quilter's tape. Now, this is really useful because it's an exact width. It's exactly 1/4 of an inch width. So if you need to mark, I'll take a piece off. If you need to mark a 1/4 of an inch seam, it's ideal for that. You know, if you want to be sure, particularly, you know, if you've started out in sewing or quilting and you're not absolutely sure, this is really good for beginners. You mark this on the edge of the fabric and then you can stitch along the edge of it. You know you've got a perfect 1/4 inch seam. After a while you'll get used to it and you'll get used to the markings on your foot plate. It's also brilliant for quilting. It's only single-sided. It won't leave any residue. So if you want to mark some quilting, maybe you want to do some shadow quilting where you quilt 1/4 of an inch outside the design, you can just lay that on and stitch line. If you happen to stitch through it, it's paper, so it's fine, it will all come off, but it's absolutely perfect for that. On here you get 30 yards of tape in total. It says on, that's an interesting one on here, it says use the tape instead of pins to indicate skirt length. Well, I guess you could, couldn't you? So you could just lay it on there, but you can use it to hold pleats in place as well. So it's like it's like masking tape, but not too sticky. But you can, you know, it's really useful for marking things or marking if you want to show somebody. I used it the other day for marking my ruler. So if you're constantly cutting something and you're cutting something at an angle, which I was doing, I was sewing design roll strips into half square triangles, then if you need to mark your rule or something, then you can easily mark that, or you can mark your cutting mat. You know it won't damage it, rather than marking it with something else. Or if you wanted to put a mark on your cutting mat because you're cutting lots of squares all the same size, it's really useful for that. But I there are lots of things you can do, but mainly I would use it for marking quilting lines. If you want to do very, very narrow quilting, although it's 1/4 of an inch, you can still just use it. So say you've, like the quilt that Jules has done here, maybe you want to do a really simple quilting where you diagonally quilt all the way through, just cross hatching. Now, when you're quilting from one corner of the square to another, it's very hard to see where that is. So if you mark it and mark it with tape, you can use the tape again, then you just take it off and then you can just sew along it. So the fact then it's 1/4 of an inch wide doesn't really matter, but it's very versatile. So £1.99, ideal. Take that bit away. So next, just getting Hannah to decide. Oh, and I've now got quilter's tape stuck all over my hand. Right. So now you've got the ruler, you've got the cutting mat, you've got 2 rulers, you need the rotary cutter. Now this is your normal 45mm cutter. Is it exactly the same? Yes, as that one. So this is your 45mm rotary cutter, which is rotary cutters come in different sizes. This is the average one. This is the normal one that you will use for nearly all your quilting. You can get a 60mm, which is used obviously because it has a greater circumference, so you can cut quicker through your fabric. So you use it if you're cutting wide widths. There is a narrow one that's very good for cutting small angles or for cutting it, particularly if you're cutting out dress patterns. But this one, the 45mm, is pretty much you'll use for most things. It has a safety lock, so if you press this button here, that means it will activate. And the best thing about it is that you don't have to, with some rotary cutters, you have to remember to slide the blade back so that it's safe, because obviously this will really cut your fingers. But with this, you actually have to hold the handle for it to, and as soon as you let go, it's gone. But it has got a safety lock, which is quite useful, because sometimes if you put these into something and then the handle gets squeezed, then the blade's out. But if you press the red button here, that locks it into place, which makes it a lot safer. Because rotary cutters are fantastic things. They will cut through all layers of fabrics, but they will also cut your fingers. So just by having that simple safety clasp, there's a screw on the back. You just undo that to put a spare blade in. We do have spare blades on the website if you want one. This rotary cutter comes with a brand new blade, nice and sharp in it, but it also has instructions on the back that explains how to change the blade. And when you do it, don't forget how to do it, because underneath here, when you take the blade out, there's a washer that has a slight bend to it and it has to go in one way. So when you take it apart, lay it all out in the order and the way up that it went in. Otherwise, it's really hard to get back together again. It's very simple if you do it in the right order, but if you don't, it's not. So this is the perfect rotary cutter for general cutting. It's the middle of the range as far as size goes. It's the Ultra rotary cutter. It's one that a lot of our guests have. I have this one, and Hannah has this one as well. So, but I like this one because I like the fact I don't have to slide up the handle back and down. It just does that. So that's ideal. So once you've got the mat and the ruler, this is brilliant. And if you watched Jules' last show, she was saying she managed to cut through 5 layers, and that's absolutely fine as long as you've got a nice sharp blade and a decent rotary cutter. So that's the 45mm one. I've got a message on my bottom. Morning, Rebecca. Just wanted to say I use my ironing board to, I can't read that, and cut and work off. I'm going to do this better if I take my glass off now. And also I put my cutting mat on top to make a bigger surface. Thank you. See, I'm not the only one who uses their ironing board as a work surface. Could you please advise what the tape is you can use to connect scrap pieces of wadding together? Batting tape. It's on the website. Have a look. Just type in batting tape. You need to use it with an 80-20 wadding, not the polyester, but it's called batting tape. Okay, so just type it into the website. Right. My little ironing board. Where did I put the little ironing board? Oh, Oh, I had the little ironing board. I put it down somewhere. Okay, we'll do the blue one first. What did I do with it? I had it in my hands earlier. Let's do the blue one instead. So this is the Quilters Multi-Mat, ideal for people who do cutting and ironing on their ironing boards, because this is an ironing board. So on the outside, we'll start off with that bit. If you open it up, that is an ironing board because it's nice and padded. So you can use that just as a mini one if you need to do just little bits, or if you can't be bothered to get it from your sewing machine table, you can have your mini iron and then you can just do it on your little ironing board. And then if we turn it over like a little book, you've got a baby cutting mat. I love that. I love that. So sweet, isn't it? It is 11 inches by 8 inches. So, you know, remember those days when we used to be allowed out and we could go to workshops and things? This is brilliant because you've got your own ironing board, your own cutting mat. But also, if you're just doing something small, maybe you're doing FPP and you need to just cut little pieces, it's all there. Or if your workspace is limited and you don't have a lot of room to work from, then this is perfect, isn't it? Because you could just fold it up like a little book, put it back in your bookcase and you're done. But it's not only that. This piece of fabric protects this from the sandpaper bit on the other side. Now this is perfect. The pieces of fabric do not come. This is a serving suggestion only. Just remember that. If you want to lay out, because it's like sandpaper, if you want to lay out fabric to see what it looks together, if you're not sure, does the purple go with the green? How shall I do my half square triangles? And does it fall off? Let's see. Some of it falls off. Some of it falls off. But the perfect thing, but the best thing is, that's funny. It grips it enough. It does fall off if you tip it upside down. It grips it enough for you to, if you were laying it on a cutting mat, right, and you wanted to lay it flat, it would keep moving around. But on here, you can put it and it stays in place. But once you've decided that, so maybe you've got a project where you've got 6 different fabrics and you've got to remember which one's which. You can just lay each one here in order, see what order you like. You know, just cut a small piece of them all, see what order you like, how it works together. Leave it there. You put your fabric over on top. That's it. Put it in the bookcase. It's done. Ready for the next project, and you can store it. Or say you've cut something and, you know, the day before and you've cut it perfectly, you've trimmed it all. Maybe you're doing half square triangles or something and you've got a few that you've trimmed perfectly and you want to use them the next day and you don't want them to move around because they start fraying just as you breathe on them. Put them on here and keep them nice and safe. Fraying, they do fray, these things. You cut them and then you look at them again and they're cut. So this is brilliant because it does everything. It's an ironing mat, a marking mat, a cutting mat and a layout mat all in one. So it's great if you, you know, for small spaces or for workshops or when you need an extra small cutting mat or an extra ironing board. So if you're like me and you use your ironing board as a work surface, this is perfect. Perfect. Now I've got a tiny ironing board. I like these. I've got one of these as well. I love it. And it's just the sweetest little thing. It's really, really sweet. Now, it lays flat so you can store it quite easily. It's just the loveliest thing. I want to make a little cover for mine because it's really cute. And you can actually make, it has actually got a removable cover. I did check that first, which has got cord in it. But this is perfect. So it's very good when you just need, when you're maybe pressing a seam open in something like a tote bag that's quite small and you want to get it right inside. So like, you know, they often, it's not a sleeve board because the sleeve board sticks out a bit more. But if you want to press something that's a bit smaller, it will go over there. If you want to have it beside your sewing machine so you can just press small pieces as you're going, it's ideal for that. There's always an occasion where you just need an extra little, a little bit. And when I want to get right into the point of a corner, you can't use your bigger ironing board, so you can just use this small one. Or if you know that you're only going to be pressing open a few small seams, you don't want the bother of getting your big iron in your big ironing board. And then if you've got one of these, the mini irons. I don't know whether we've got any left, but if you do have a mini iron, it's perfect. Look, just fits. Just fits. It's just, I like the fact it's miniature, but no, actually, it's not that. I do use it because there are times when you just need something really small, just for those little areas, or to just have beside your sewing machine, because we all know that the more you press in between every stage, you either press it flat, even if you've sewn a seam and you're not going to be pressing it open or to one side, always press the seam, because the action of the needle and the thread going to the fabric disturbs the fabric threads and it distorts it slightly, and by just pressing the seam you will then get a neater finish. But sometimes you just can't be bothered to go to the ironing board, so it's nice to have that there. But it is really good for getting into all those little areas when you need that you can't get your whole end of your ironing board into, and it stores flat as well, which is very useful in your little box. It says on here, I don't understand that, the cover is non-removable, but that's actually not true, because look, it's got a cord in it, like any normal ironing board. Yeah, so yes it is. But actually, for mine, I will make a cover for one day. I just put another one on top anyway, just because it would look nicer. And it is, it's just as good as a normal ironing board as far as, working and having a sort of a pressing surface. It's just smaller. But, for just little things like toy clothes. Can we do the jigsaw? Oh, I love this. I did ask Hannah if I could do the jigsaw, but she said I didn't have enough time. This is brilliant, isn't it? No, this is an 1,000-piece jigsaw. I like the way it says on it, jigsaw puzzle for adults. Oh, that's quite funny. Yes, so on the cover, you see this is the bit that you'll be following where it says Festival of Quilts. That bit isn't actually on the puzzle, so you don't really, but there is a small picture of it there. So the whole jigsaw, 1,000 pieces, and it makes this. So these are all quilts that have appeared at the Festival of Quilts. So if you like quilting and you like jigsaws, this is perfect. And with the current situation and the weather as well, you'll be in a lot. This is ideal. I was listening to Desert Island Discs at the weekend, and the person on there had to choose a luxury item, and she said she wanted a jigsaw puzzle. Now I get that, because it's quite a nice thing when you're on a desert island. But I would sort of feel it's going to be a bit damp, rain. I'm not sure. Of all the luxury items I'd choose, I love a jigsaw puzzle, but not necessarily for a desert island. So there's a picture of it on the side. But it's nice, isn't it? I don't know why it's just for adults, because, anyone who likes jigsaws could do this. Because what's good is every quilt is a very different colour. So that makes it a bit easier, because if you just had one quilt, that'd be really hard. And they've all got edges all round each one, haven't they? So that makes it a bit easier. But what a nice jigsaw to do. And it doesn't say Festival of Quilts, jigsaw puzzle for adults across the middle. It does. There's a picture there. Can I show you? There are pictures online. There you go. But that's the picture of it. Anyway, look, all comes in a bag, 1,000 pieces. What a lovely thing to do. They wouldn't let me take out the bag, but I'd quite like to do that. Actually, it's quite a good jigsaw as well, because the pieces are quite thick. This is intended for ages 14 plus or adults. That's really funny, isn't it? It does make me laugh, that. Stitched puzzles. Anyway, it's 29.5 inches by 19.5 inches if you need to know. But very good to do on your extra large cutting mat, although you can't make any quilts while you're doing your jigsaw. But nice thing to have. Good gift for somebody as well. If you know somebody who's a quilter sewing, that's a nice gift for somebody, isn't it? Wonder clips. These are sewing clips. There are, how many are in this packet, Hannah? 50. Now, I use these all the time. These are part of my basic workroom tools. I use them because you can clip together or pin, instead of pins, many layers, more than you can get through a pin. I'm always breaking pins, so look how much you can get into there. Also, they're ideal when if you're using something that you don't want to pin, like leather, oilcloth, PU, something that you don't want to mark, they're perfect for that. I use them a lot for when I need to pin something together on one side, but I actually need to stitch from the other side. So for example, if I'm doing a zip, I might need to pin it from one side, but then stitch it from another. Because these are sort of double-sided, you can clip together and you can then sew it from either side. Otherwise, you've got to pin it all from one side, turn it over, repin it, take the pins out. So they're perfect for that. They're also really good for if you need to add piping to something or put binding on something a bit bulky, because you can clip it on all the way round, and they're just as good as pins. They're really strong. And if you want to just have something that you can move quickly, so maybe you need to pin some anchor points if you're doing a circle and you've got to pin the quarter points, and it's really useful for that. But having 50, because some of them come in boxes of like 15, just isn't enough. You need lots. So having 50, and they're different colours. So if you need to mark where something is, you can mark it with this. But there's often times when you just don't want to pin because you know it might mark it. If it's a particularly fine fabric or some darker fabrics, or you worry that if it's a very delicate fabric, the pin might pull the thread at all. And particularly thick thread, thicker fabrics. You know, if you're hemming a pair of jeans, it's quite hard to get the pins through all the layers without, as soon as you sort of bend it, they snap. But the fabric clips are perfect for that. So $19.99. Honestly, I use mine all the time. Don't drop them on the floor though, because the dog pinches them, and I constantly find her chewing things, and then I find her with a fabric clip in her mouth, all stones. Or the lid of something, but the fabric clips. But they are really useful. I do keep mine quite safe because I'm very precious about them. I don't know what to have next. Got so many things. Let's do spray. Where's the spray gone? Oh, that'll be that one there that I can't. How did I not see that? Oh, I'm going mad. Right, this is brilliant. We were talking earlier, Jules, about basting and how much I hate tacking things together, because we were talking about putting fleece instead of wadding and backing fabric, and then she was saying, well, you could use the basting spray. So this is great. What you do is you lay your fabric down, your backing fabric down, and then you spray the wadding, and then you press that on, and it just sticks it. It's temporary, so it won't last forever and ever, but it's just perfect for basting. You then spray the other side of the wadding and put your top fabric on. That means you don't have to do any pinning and tacking, so it will stay for as long as you need to do the quilting. I mean, it is temporary, so the good thing about that is if you lay it all down and then you realise that you've got a little ripple or a crease, you can just pull it off and then stick it back down again. So it's ideal. You can use it for, I mean, it says on here you can use it for hemming things, jeans and felt, and putting patterns on. So you can stick patterns onto things, but mainly it is used as a quilt basting spray. But anything where you just want to temporarily put something down. So maybe you want to you're stitching a zip into a purse or a wash bag or something. And, you know, whenever I put a zip in between two layers, I always sew it to one layer and then the other layer. So if I'm putting a zip in a purse that's got a lining, but the same way as you use fabric glue, this is ideal for this. Make sure when you use it that you follow the instructions and that you cover the area that you're going to be spraying, because if you spray it and you're on the carpet or something, your carpet will be sticky. So do protect the area around. You know, just put an old sheet down if you're doing it. Or if you're doing it on the table, just protect the area around. And an old sheet's ideal for this because it will be sticky. But it is fantastic because you can peel it off and put it back on again. Only $7.99, and that is really one of those really useful workroom things, a bit like Bonderweb. Bonderweb and ironing boards. Oh, I've got a message from Jennifer about the clips. Pick a specific colour clip to mark your turning gap so you remember to stop at that point. That's a really good idea, because the number of times when I'm like sewing in the lining and you know you've got to leave a turning gap and you always forget, and then you sew across it, but you can just put that clip where the turning gap needs to be, and because you can't sew over them, then you'll remember. That's a brilliant tip. Thank you. Never used that. Love that. Quilting pins. I like these. Because, again, you get a little box, which is always useful. But when you are doing certain different things in sewing, you do need the right tools, and pins is one of them. Now these are called quilting pins. The tops are made from glass, so you can iron over them. This must be a new one because I've already opened one of these. I know, look, they've all spilt out. Now this is a new one. It's not a new one anymore because when they come new, they lay down beautifully. Anyway, we'll just talk about one of them. So, this is not a new box anymore. They were sellotaped down, obviously, which is really sensible having them sellotaped, but not when you try and open them, so full now. So, these pins are particularly long, longer than a normal pin. Here's a normal one. Will you see it on this grey? So there's a normal pin, and this is a quilting pin. Look at that. So it's twice as long as a normal pin. Oh, and Hannah's got a price comparison for me. So these are the same. No, they are the same colour. Yeah, orange and green. Orange and green. £10. £10 on ours are only £7.99. Yeah, just a little bit of extra. So you get 100 pins in here. They're extra long. They're fine. They're very sharp. So they're ideal if you are, they say they're quilting pins, because if you're layering together a quilt and you need to get through the layers, they're perfect for that. They've got glass heads so you can iron over them, which is quite important. You don't have to use them for quilting, but they're just a really good pin for when you need extra length and you want them slightly fine. There's 100 in the box. And the ends come in 2 different colours. So which is useful sometimes when you need to mark certain areas with one colour with one and certain areas with another colour. Do you think I can keep this box now that I've spilt it all? Probably. So another price comparison, £11.95 for the same ones. These are clover, and we all know that clover is really good quality. So it's a bit like having the right needle for the job. There are pins and there are pins, and you need different ones. So applique pins are brilliant. We have got those on the website. Have a look at applique pins. They are brilliant because they are very short. So no good for quilting. You couldn't. Oh, she's found another one. She found another price comparison. So our price at £7.99. We've obviously got a very good relationship with the supplier. And how much are those? £12.40. And ours is £7.99. Yeah, bargain. So that's very good, isn't it? But shocked. Hannah's shocked. But the same way, if you have a look on the website, you'll see the applique pins, and they're very, very short. And they're ideal because you can just pin tiny pieces. So it's about having the right tools for the job. And at £7.99, that's a bargain. But it's not just about quilting though. Use them for anything where you need fine and very long pins. I'm going to put them back in the box and back in the packet. Then no one will know that the colours are all out of order now. Well, they shouldn't have sellotaped them up, should they? Really? They shouldn't have sellotaped them up. I'll put them back. No one will notice. How long have I got? Can I do thread? These threads haven't been opened. Can I open them? I don't want to get told off again. No, I'll have to cut them. These are not fabric scissors. No fabric scissors were harmed. Do check out on your pins, because now you've realised what an absolute bargain they are. And honestly, they are really useful. Have some of them, but get some applique pins as well, because it's really because most people have got normal pins. Make sure they're sharp though. And just compare the prices. But long pins and short pins, they make a difference. So I love a tin. It's very, very vintage, isn't it? Very vintage tin, because you can fill them with buttons and all sorts of things, or biscuits. This is a lovely one. So this is 8 spools of 100 metre sew-all thread. So the Gutermann thread. It's called the Nostalgic Box. This is your basics, isn't it? Black, white, beige, chocolate, bright red, navy, olive and grey. So those are all the sort of the standard colours that you need for general sewing. I mean, obviously, the box comes for free. You can take them all out. You can also, I won't take it all out, but you can take all the foam padding out. So you can use this box for something else, like bourbons or custard creams. I think would fit really nicely, and you'd only get one layer, or buttons or something. But it's just a really nice tin. So it's, what's the price there? $16.99. So that's great value for 8 spools of thread. And you get the tin with it. So it's a really nice gift for somebody, isn't it? Or for yourself. But, you know, it's lovely. It's a really sort of vintage picture of a lady doing some embroidery. But it is the Nostalgic collection from Gutermann. And it is their lovely, you know, Gutermann thread is good quality. It's your general sew-all thread. I use that one all the time. We've got another one here, which again I shall have to cut. But, you know, can't really show you a tin if I haven't cut it up. This has got a different picture on it. Different picture. This is the lady looking at her tins. This one's 1928. That was 1925. I'm not sure what she's got on her head. She looks like she's got slices of Swiss roll on her head. Not absolutely sure. It's so she's looking at her tin. But this is all the really brights. This is a lovely selection of... This is the rainbow tin, isn't it? In fact, it's even in order. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and pink. So indigo... I was going to go blue, green, indigo and violet, except for that's pink. So that's your rainbow colours. Again, you've got 8 spools, $16.99, 100 metres on each spool. And it is your really good quality Gutermann thread. The sew-all thread, it's a polyester, which means it's really strong. I use it a lot. It doesn't bobble in the machine. It's just a really nice one. So there's your rainbow pack, your basics pack. Come in a lovely tin. Love the tin. And also really easy to store them because they will stack. This is the final small tin. So I wonder what year this one's got on it. Oh. No, this one's... Oh, well, that's that. This one's 1927. So this is a lady. Oh, I love this. This lady is sewing the buttons on his jacket while he stands casually with his hands in his pockets. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I know it's traditional and everything, isn't it? It's like, sew that. I'll just stand here casually. Yeah, with their plaits. 1927. Pastel. So you've got, that's just a plain normal white, but then you've got light pink, dark pink, mauve, blue. This is the same colour as the pastel fabric bundle we had this morning. So if you bought the pastel fabric bundle in the 8 o'clock, this is the one to go with it. I like that colour. It's green and blue at the same time. So exactly the same as the other. So if you had all of them, you'd have pastels, brights, and your basics as well. But if you're loving a tin, I've got a big boy box. This one has got 18195 on it. There's probably some great reason why all these numbers are on here. Look at that. It's got even bigger. It's got the factory. You get loads of bourbons in there. Do you know what I'd put in here is Garibaldis. You could get a lot of Garibaldis in here, and I love them. Now look at that tin. Whoa. 48 spools. So $59.99. That works out at £1.28 a spool. What? Sorry, £1.24. What a fantastic array of colours. So you start off with the black and the white, but it's not just black and white, it's white and slightly off-white and cream. So you've got 3 of the creams. And then at this end, where you've got the greys, you've got 4, light, medium, slate and charcoal. And then you've got all of the bright colours, the yellows, reds, oranges. You've got a nice selection of neutral browns. So you've got the sort of milk chocolate, plain chocolate, cappuccino. Tell I'm feeling hungry, can't you? I'm talking about Garibaldis and chocolate. Beiges, you've got pale pink, dark pink. So you've got the whole range of blues. So when you've got blues, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got 6 blues. So you've got a lovely range. So in this tin, it's pretty much everything you're going to need. And you get the tin as well. And the foam divider in the tin is removable. So you can use the tin for other things after you want to. So, you know, we all know Gutermann thread is a great thread, isn't it? It's really good quality. So this is a nice collection to have. You know you're going to use them all. And I was going to say, I wonder if it tells you what the numbers are. So if you need to replace, so when they've run out, the numbers are on the spool. So you can just buy new ones to replace them. But that's a nice, again, good gift. So talking about gifts, we have got, well, it's 11 o'clock. We have got Jules back in a couple of minutes. Wine totes. These are really good, really easy, really quick. Quilt as you go. We've got several different kits available for you. So go make yourself a cup of tea, put the kettle on. I will see you back in 3.
Follow Sewing Street and Yarn Lane on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with what's coming up on the show, as well as being the first to know about our amazing offers. Get involved with our competitions that are exclusive to social media. And pick up some top tips from us too.
Hello Sewing Street fans, let me introduce myself. My name is Clive, I live in Kenilworth in Warwickshire. I currently run a business in Kenilworth and that's doing alterations on people's clothing. So I really enjoy kind of providing that service for the local community. My sewing journey first began when my grandmother gave me a hand crank sewing machine and from there I was fascinated about how things were put together. To the point where I used to make clothing for my favourite toys out of toilet tissue. I've also kind of studied fashion design at Epsom University in Surrey, so I've kind of gained knowledge along the way of different aspects of sewing, like pattern cutting. So yeah, that's a little bit about my sewing journey. My number one sewing tip is don't give up. Sometimes you'll get frustrated and you're angry with yourself, but really just put it to one side and take half an hour, go and have a cup of tea and a biscuit and then come back to it, and then you'll kind of like have a fresh mind to start again. The positive happiness that comes from that is just amazing. So please don't give up, keep on sewing. My claim to fame? Well, if you've been watching, you've probably heard my name mentioned on Sewing Street several times. My husband is Mark Francis from the Sewing Bee, the Great British Sewing Bee. So that's number one claim to fame. My second claim to fame is I had Adele, the beautiful, beautiful tones of Adele singing for me when I was a barman back in the day. It was just amazing to have her sing to me at my bar. So yeah, and also I've met Prince Harry at a VIP party. Stay tuned on Sewing Street and you'll see me very soon. I hope it all goes well, fingers crossed.
In need of a crafting fix? There are so many ways you can watch Sewing Street and Yarn Lane. Sewing Street is live from 8 AM to 1 PM every day on Freeview 72 and Sky 670. Alternatively, if you want to watch us on a tablet or on the move, you can tune in on our YouTube channel, the Sewing Street app, or the websites at www.sewingstreet.com and www.yarnlane.com. You can watch past shows on Sky 670 from 1 PM every day, as well as our YouTube channel, the app, and our website. Yarn Lane is on from 12 PM to 1 PM. Visit our programme guide to find out when and what's on. So you never have to spend a minute without us.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page. While we're having to spend more time at home again, we're here to keep you busy and entertained. Sewing Street will be live every day from 8 a.m, bringing you plenty of demonstrations with our experts in dressmaking, quilting, bag making, toy making, needle felting, embroidery, and so much more. Our community of fellow sewists on the Sewing Street fans Facebook group are there to chat to you about whatever you're making, sharing photos and advice. Check out the Sewing Street Facebook and Instagram pages for fun competitions and offers.
And welcome back to the Wine Tote Hour. Not the wine hour, the Wine Tote Hour. So if you know when you buy somebody a bottle of wine and then you put it in one of those paper bags and then they end up throwing it out or giving someone else, why not, make a real gift of it? With this fab kit that we've got, you can make 3. I'm going to show you. There's one. There's the one that Jules has made with the first bundle. The bundle has got enough in it. It's got enough of the wadding, marked wadding and the fabric to make 3. So there are 3 different patterns. This is one. Now, this is a different fabric. Just don't look at the fabric, it's just the pattern. So there are 3 different designs. So although you get 3 in the pack, 3 slightly different designs. So that's one of them. This is another one. So this one's more sort of squares and stripes. This one is more diagonal. And then the one that Jules made that we just showed you, that's horizontal stripes. That's the third one. So the 3 are all different and they all come in the same pack. So not only are they good for gifts, but they're also really good for storing your wine because they obviously got wadding in them. So they're slightly padded, so they're perfect for that. Can't beat a wine tote. So this bundle, this is the one that Jules used to make the tote that you have just seen. In the bundle, you get the printed quilt as you go wadding, which I won't explain to you how it works because Jules is going to do that in a minute. But all of the wadding is printed and there is enough there to make all 3. They're 3 different designs. There's sort of the horizontal one, the vertical one and the diagonal one. But in the pack as well, you get 3 half meters of fabric. I love this. This one is a lovely blue, but the I don't know whether you can tell, but it's actually got gold print on it, like a metallic print on it. So this is called Graceful Garden by Hoffman. It's beautiful, isn't it? So it's shades of lovely sort of, it looks a bit like waves, it looks sort of quite Japanese. But it has a really lovely metallic gold. So that's a ½ meter. You also get ½ meter of this lovely purple. This is the same print, but in purple. It's really nice. But you get ½ meter of this purple, so it's not just a plain, it's a slightly mottled one, but it's just a really nice fabric, isn't it? So it's up to you. You can only make 3 with the bundle that's in there, but you could use other fabrics. You could keep some of these if you think, oh, I like one of those metallic fabrics. I've got one of my own I'll use. I'll keep the other one for something else because those are lovely fabrics, really lovely quality because of the metallic print as well. Very special. So if you're making one of these for somebody as a gift, this is perfect. And that's for $32.49, 3 wine totes. That's not bad, is it? And they're really lovely to make. If you've not tried quilting before, this is perfect for beginners. Right, then the second bundle is the one that Jules is going to be demonstrating for us, which, this is the red wine bundle. I don't think it's called that actually, but it could be called that. This red green cream it's called. So again, you get the quilt as you go pack with all the instructions and the marked wadding. Then you get ½ meter of this lovely red sort of leafy print rather than floral. Stoff Fabrics is Danish design. That's a lovely leaf print. Be good if you actually made your own homemade wine. Depends what it costs, what it tastes like. Might make it a bit better if you put it in a tote. Then you've got this small green print. Or you doesn't have to be for wine. It could be homemade elderflower cordial. Could be other things. Doesn't have to be wine. Or if you bought somebody a bottle, whiskey, bottle of gin, be nice in that, wouldn't it, as a present? I always think that if you package something well, it adds value. So you can buy quite a cheap bottle of wine, but if you put it in one of these totes, it'll look like you've really spent some money and time. Yeah, so if I ever give you a present in really nice packaging, you know it was really cheap. Then you get 1/2 metre of the plain red, but this isn't just any plain. This is like a linen effect one. It's got a slub in it. That's nice, isn't it? Is it a linen?
It's not a linen, but it feels very much like one. Yeah,
Yeah, it's got a linen effect.
It has, yeah.
It's really nice, though.
It's still sort of cotton weight.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's not linen,
Whereas
but
linen's a bit
it's
heavier,
got the
isn't
sort
it?
of this slub in it.
Yeah.
So that's a lovely bundle. Bundle number 3 is the... What's this one called? Cream and green. Okay, so you've got 1/2 metre of this green floral fabric. This is a very fresh one. This would be ideal. Maybe you have to choose which one you do depending on the colour of wine you're going to give. I don't know. Maybe this is the...
That's getting a bit too...
Do you think that's a bit... Well, that was the red wine. This is the green wine, the white
I
wine.
don't know about the blue one. Maybe damson wine.
Yeah, that's slow gin.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the other one was slow gin. Now, I do make slow gin. I didn't make any last year, but I did make it the year before. So it'd be perfect for that. The only problem is I don't ever give away my slow gin. So I wouldn't be putting
You
it in
sound very
tote.
much like my sister.
Oh, I love slow gin. It's really nice. So you've got 1/2 metre of the green floral. You've got 1/2 metre of this really fun stripe, which must work really well with the wine totes because you've got verticals and so the stripe fabric works really well. Yep. And then 1/2 metre of this cream, but it's a textured cream. It's sort of a splodgy, like a watercolour. It's not just a plain. Like the, a bit like the purple one that we had. So that's a pretty one. And then the final, and again, obviously you get the quilt as you go. Pack, and finally this one, which is called Red and Navy. So you get 1/2 metre of this one. This feels a bit Christmassy almost, doesn't it? Wintry, because it's got like red berries and little white flowers. And then you get 1/2 metre of the red with a floral print pattern on it, like a red on red, and 1/2 metre of the navy stripe. Now the stripes do work well with these bags because you can see we've done quite a few of them. So I don't think that's sort of that's quite classic, that one. So it depends what feel you want, whether you want the red and navy, the red one, the bright green one, or the sort of metallic purples and blues. We also have, you can get also, if you have your own fabric and you just want the quilt as you go bundle, just to make the 3 totes, we have a very limited number of these. So it does have all of the instructions in there as well. And it tells you how much fabric you need. So if you want to buy just this $14.99 and use your own fabric, we do have a limited number of those. Okay, right. So Jules, have you made these before?
I haven't made the wine totes before, but
Right.
I am a fan of June Taylor. I've done quite a lot of her Quilt As You Go bags. And it's actually, if I'd had this first, I wouldn't have made errors on the bags that I had.
Oh,
I
so
had
this
the bags
is good
first.
for beginners.
This is a very good toe in the water for Quilt As You Go because she does it slightly differently. And you have to just get it in your head, first of all, that the lines mean different things than you expect them to mean. But
So
I'll
if
go through
you've
it.
not done Quilt As You Go, what is it? What
So
is it?
basically, you're making the sandwich of your backing fabric, your wadding, and your top fabric all in one go. So you're not having to do the
Right.
top like we did with this. We did
Yes.
the top and then we put everything else together.
So it's all, you doing the
yeah,
whole thing
it's a one-stage process.
Okay,
Yeah.
so good for beginners then.
Yep, very good for beginners, and good if you want a quick make.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it quickly, but supposing you had a quick make, then this is the one for you. And I think it's
Perfect.
really good value because you're looking at it and you think, oh, there's a wine tote. What's this all about? But there are 3 in that pack.
Yeah, and that's really nice,
that's
isn't it?
the
And they're
nice
different
thing.
designs as well.
Yes, they are. Yeah, so it's all good stuff.
So what happened? Where do you start?
So when you open your Quilt As You Go fabric, you will get layouts on your fabric.
Okay.
And it will be something akin
I'm going to open mine.
Yeah, it's quite a big sheet's worth of fabric.
Yeah, so let's open it up just so you can see what it does look like.
So you'll kind of have these sort of strange designs and little circles in there.
You get instructions.
Yes, your instructions are in, so don't throw that away.
Do not throw the instructions away.
It's kind of very
you will need them.
unassuming. It's just a bit of paper that's chucked in.
You will need
but
them.
You need it, yeah.
And then this is what you get in the pack. Okay. Strange shapes.
So you've got everything.
Ah, so one tote is a whole piece.
One length. Yes, yeah.
Oh, and it's got numbers on it as well.
So this is another one to be organised with.
Right.
You are given your quilting instructions on your little piece of paper.
Yeah.
You can see that there are three different designs on there, and I tend to put my numbers and my letters on as to what fabric I'm going to use. So each piece is numbered on there, and you put them on in the order of the numbers generally.
Right.
So it just keeps you all straight. If you follow it, it is quilting by numbers. If you follow it like according to the pattern, then you shouldn't go wrong, really.
Do you have to be careful which fabric you use where, so that you don't use too much of one? Or?
Well, no, not really. No, not on this one. I did. So this is what they call the horizontal stripe wine tote, the one that I've got in the blue and purple. The angled stripe one was when you were showing the totes there, is the green one.
This one.
So that's the angled one. And then the other one is the step ladder.
Oh, the step ladder, not the horizontal one. So that's the step ladder.
So I cut out...
That's the angled one.
I'm doing those two now.
Okay.
So I
you've
cut
already
out
made that one.
Those two. And then I've got enough... So this is the fabric I've got left, out of which I will make this one, or could make that one.
Oh,
but
okay. So you have got more than enough.
You've got copious amounts. And you see I've got a funny shape there because the binding around the top, you actually cut on the bias. So as opposed to when you've got your width of fabric and your depth of fabric, as opposed to cutting it horizontally that way, you cut it at 45 degrees.
Okay.
So that's my 45 degrees. And the way you get that is you can look on your cutting mat and you've got a 45 degree line, and that's your bias line.
Okay.
So that's the strip that you need. You need two 20-inch lengths, and I think it's 2 or 2.5 inch wide. It tells you on the pattern anyway. But having said that, this would be the remainder that I'd cut one of those out, and I'd still have bits left.
Okay.
So you've got enough fabric to do 3. So it's quite a good deal, actually.
Yeah, it is. And then it tells you, doesn't it? Like piece 1, 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. So I guess you've got to cut everything out first.
So you cut them all out. So you cut I would cut your backing. What you're going to use is your liner. So I'm going to use the red on the inside because I quite like the pretty fabric, and I thought I'll keep that for something else if I wanted to. So you cut, this piece is your backing fabric.
And it says all of that as well, doesn't it? Cut the backing fabric, cut the circular base, cut the strips.
So those are the squares that will be the circular base in a second. And then the strips, I, again, like my little numbers on there. So this is my binding, which I've cut on the bias. And then my strips, I've numbered them 1, 2, whatever it was on this one, on each one. There's a slightly different number on each one.
So it's a nice project. It's a kind of an organised,
very
methodical.
organised. If you like to control.
Yes.
We like a control.
But it's quite methodical, isn't it? So once you get this kit home, you just cut it all out, label it all up, start sewing.
And it's one that you could leave and come back to because you've numbered everything, so you're going to keep yourself straight with everything. So
the colourway that you made your sample in is currently the most popular.
It's lovely.
One.
I love that gold.
It's
really
lovely, isn't it?
pretty.
It's a really lovely
really
feel
pretty.
fabric as well.
So what we'll do is you take your backing fabric and you have it right sides down.
Okay.
Then you place on top your printed fabric. Now you
don't cut out round the edge of it then?
You cut out about, I don't know, half an inch-ish.
Okay.
So we will cut it out in a bit, but we do things to it first.
Right.
So what you should do, is do some 505, or you can have June Taylor Savvy starch. I think we've got both of those on the website. And you just want to anchor your backing fabric to your quilt wadding.
Right.
To start off with.
Can you, if you don't have that, can you tack it?
Well, the next thing is that you're going to actually sew it to anchor it on.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's only very temporary. You could pin it if you wanted to.
Okay.
It's however you
but
want
obviously
to do it.
using the 505 basting spray is better.
Just easier.
Yeah,
that's all.
but you could just pin it.
But you could just pin it.
Okay.
So I'm just stroking this to give it a bit of static, because I'm going to just sew it anyway. So what you want to do now, remember first of all that all of the lines that are printed on here are your placement lines, not your sewing lines.
Right.
So that's the first thing that is different that you need to kind of get into your head. So placement lines are on there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to anchor the wadding to the backing fabric, and we're going to sew just inside the printed line. And then later on, we're going to use that as our cutting guide.
Ah, okay. So don't sew along it, otherwise
Don't
you'll
sew
cut your
along it.
stitches off it.
It's a judgment guide, really.
Right. So just sew slightly with inside it.
Yeah, only a squidge. Not. I know that's a technical term, but
Is that a technical term?
Yeah. as are all of the other kind of terms that come out of my mouth.
Yes. A squidge.
A squidge
is
amount. It's like a amount.
Is it that
Hair's breadth.
no, what do they call a scant?
It's a scant.
A scant quarter of an inch. I love that. That's use a squidge.
So we're going to go all the way around, and it's not vital that everything is kind of accurate at this stage, but if you can keep it to the lines, it's kind of a bit better off.
Okay.
Or you'll be a bit better off. So when you were saying about the pattern, what kind of pattern do you want? What I did was I had a look at the pictorial on there, the shiny one that comes at the front of the
Oh right,
product.
yes, on the
You
front
see what
of
I'm
them.
trying to say? The picture. Yes,
the picture. Right.
picture. And I
Okay.
just
Let me find the picture.
I
Yes.
kind of had a look and thought, what do I want on the top of the handles? What do I want on the bottom?
Oh yeah. So
and
you
just did
could
a bit of-
so you can look at that first and have a think about it.
Yeah. And then what I did was I just marked my pattern with a little bit of code, and then I knew how many of each piece to cut out.
Yes, I suppose because you could, and also if you wanted to personalise these or embroider or put a label on, you could sew that on that
Yeah.
piece of fabric first,
You
couldn't
could.
you?
On the horizontal one, that's the blue and purple one there, you've got
Yes.
two big sort of, I can't remember, I think they're about 5 inches. So you could actually put a label onto that. You could make it look like a wine bottle if you wanted to.
Oh, you could, couldn't
That
you?
green fabric that you had, the green floral one.
But actually, you could do it afterwards, couldn't you? Because you construct it flat,
Yeah,
so you could sew that afterwards.
yeah. Okay, so we're nearly round.
Yes. So we also, if you like wine, we've got some really cool wine fabric. We haven't got a piece of it here, but we have got a picture. So I'm going to show you it. So if you want to make something else wine, and we're just going to get it up now. Oh, I like that.
Oh, that's good.
So it's called Vines and Wines on Cream. So we're selling that by the half metre. So if you want to make something wine related, maybe some, you can make little gift bags with it, make anything lovely for the kitchen, like little fabric bags to keep vegetables in, tea cosy, all that kind of thing. That's
Lovely.
a lovely fabric, really unusual. But if you want that, $5.99 for half a metre. Be nice cushions, wouldn't it? For your wine room. No! For your wine room.
Have you got a wine room?
No, I do. For your cellar. I think
your
a wine room
cellar?
is a cellar. No, for the kitchen. I think it'd be nice cushions for the kitchen. But if
Very posh
you
house.
like the wine idea, or if you've bought the quilt as you go and you want something for the lining, you could use that. Or if you wanted to make... Yes, I think Hannah obviously calls her kitchen the wine room. I call mine the kitchen. So if you want the
Personal
wine
preferences.
fabric, there it is on screen at the moment. $5.99 for half a metre.
So the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to take your piece 1, whichever one it is you've decided, and just pin it over the lines. So this is your placement line, remember? So you place it along and just pin that one there. The next one that you want
because that's number 1. I'm just following you.
Yeah, so you want either a number 2 or a number 3. The beauty of this is that you can do all down one side and then all down the other side, and it won't matter. So you don't have to keep turning around if you don't want to.
Yeah, so you don't have to do it in order then. You could...
Not on these.
Right.
But if you've got the Quilt As You Go bags, you do.
Yes, but for these, because you're working from the centre out, you could...
one side and then
okay.
So
maybe the first one do in order.
Yes, just to kind of keep
it's nice because you can really see, like you're saying, if you wanted to use a special fabric, it's very easy. Like you said, that big one that makes the big rectangle, you can see that there. And that diagonal one would be good for a label, number 13.
Yeah. So on here, I've got my, and these are longer than you need. You kind of think, oh, have I picked the wrong thing?
Oh, they're quite generous then.
So you want the edge of your fabric along the edge
of the line.
And you might want to, yes, exactly.
Not sewing.
You might want to just put a pin in your first ones. I've got a pin underneath, so I've got to be careful that I don't sew through. And then the edge of the fabric, the top fabric, not the bottom fabric, you are working on your top fabric. That's the edge for your guide, and you sew 1/4 inch in. Okay, so let us do the sewing. It's up to you whether you go right to the end of the fabric or whether you just cover where the placement lines are. I'm just going to go kind of halfway.
And is it a 1/4 inch seam allowance?
1/4 inch seam allowance.
So this colourway that Jules is doing at the moment, the red and cream, we've got less than 20 red, green and cream left of these. So if you want one, you need to pop it in your basket. This is a brilliant weekend make, isn't it?
Yeah. And as I say, it doesn't matter if you leave it and go back to it. And don't worry, I mean, I've got a different colour on the back. That's going to be the lining. So I would suggest having a different colour when you're doing the first stage, just so that you can see where you're actually chopping off to.
Okay.
So that's my first piece down.
Be good for picnics as well, wouldn't it? Because it keeps the wine bottle slightly padded in your picnic basket.
Use your clover. Love clovers.
We'll probably still be having picnics next summer. So we can all go out with bottles of wine.
Bottles of wine. Okay, so that's your first piece. Number 3 I'm not going to do because that's on the other side. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do number 4. And I'm going to put that. So along the line, doesn't matter where this one is underneath.
So it's a bit like FPP, but easier.
Yeah. And I'll just put...
I like this. So can you do your own quilt as you go? I guess you can draw, you know, this is just a technique.
Yes. Yeah.
You could do it yourself once you'd learned
the basics of it.
The idea behind this.
And this is a good way to use up scraps, to be fair.
God, yes, you could, couldn't you? And you could even join scraps together to then make the bigger pieces. So if you've got really lovely fabric that you don't like throwing away, you know, like all those Liberty scraps, you could join them all together to make even bigger ones.
And a lot of the collections all go together anyway, don't they? So, you know, you...
Do these, if you iron these, do the marks come off?
I don't know, because I haven't ironed them.
Hannah says no.
I don't think so. I'm
just thinking because, you know, if you wanted to like press this, would you lose all the marks?
Oh no, it's not like a friction pen.
No,
is that what you mean? Oh,
that's
okay.
what would worry. You imagine thinking, oh, just press that, and then
oops.
Oh, what was number 10? And then
that was my error.
Yes, I've lost all the edge. I've done that with a whole embroidery transfer once that I'd drawn onto fabric. Oh, just give that a quick eye before I put in my embroidery hoop.
So if you wanted to, you'd then go back and do your other side. So where?
Yeah, so I say maybe for the first one, you should do it in
one.
order. But after that, once you've worked it out, you can just work outwards. I don't know which one I like the best, actually.
So on here, we're coming over and going over to there. So you just have to be a bit aware that you're capturing the rest of it. So it is a bit like FPP stuff.
But easier.
Bit easier.
Because you're not having to do that sewing and pressing and trimming and...
Yeah. I mean, the only pressing that you need to do is with your clover, really. That's all.
Oh, the little steamroller thing.
Yeah.
It's not a steamroller. That little
That's
thing.
not a steamroller.
The non-steam, the steamless steamroller.
The steamless steamroller.
But yeah, otherwise known as the clover roll and press.
Thank you for your
I
technicals.
didn't think of that when I was doing that earlier. I said all the things you can do. I didn't think quilt as you go.
Well, we hadn't.
But
got
you
there
could
yet.
press it, couldn't you?
You could if you wanted to, but you know,
You don't need.
you don't need to. Is that why you were asking me about does the ink come
Well,
off?
yes, because that's what I was thinking, and also I think if I think, well, I want this to lie nice and flat, because when it comes out of the packet, if I hadn't done it, I'd want it to be flat, and it has a bit of a crease in it.
Oh yes.
So I would think,
But to be honest, where's the crease? Is it on your? Is it on one of the toes?
Well,
Oh,
it does
is,
come
yeah.
down the edge of there, because I guess it's folded in 3. But if you can press it, that's fine. And like you say, if you can press that, otherwise it would all disappear.
So kind of that gives you the idea that that's where we're going to with those.
Nice. So you just work your way.
You work your way around. So that was the angled one that I was doing there.
Okay.
But having jumped ahead, so now I've got one which I've completely pieced. So this is the step ladder one. So we've completely pieced all the way down, and you can see it on the little pattern here. So all of these pieces are actually the same size, and then you've got 2 long pieces on the first side, and then
that's nice. So which one would you start with then? If somebody gets this home,
I would start with the horizontal one.
Okay.
Because you don't have to worry. If you notice on the other ones, they, like on the angled one, they kind of run off.
Yes.
So you've got to just be aware of where it's going to be, so that you can fold it over and it still be captured in. See,
because if you placed it over a bit, you might be in the wrong place.
You'd lose.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd lose a little bit. So I would start off on the horizontal one, and then just kind of move up the scale. Probably do the step ladder next, then the angled maybe last. But it doesn't matter really. If you went wrong and you had to unpick, it's not a lot to unpick. Anyway.
No, that's true. But I guess it also, this would be a good project to do with somebody who was a beginner, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To teach them. So
where you're going with it.
If you were going to do it, then tell them to start with that one.
Yeah. Start with the horizontal one. So once you have finished piecing, you have got these pieces on the very edge. Can you see where my edge piece is here? So my placement line is here.
Yes.
This one goes over a little bit. So if you pin from the back, anchor all of those pieces down with pins, and then what we're going to do is flip it over to the other side. So everything on the front's finished. Flip it over onto the other side, and where we've done our sewing line before.
Oh yeah, the outside one.
We're going to go around it again, so that it just anchors everything else that's there. So if you remember, we went just slightly on the inside. So if we're going to just go slightly on the outside of that now, and then that'll be the tote image, if you like. So I'm going to go and stitch close to the edge now.
Yeah, I guess because all the pieces are going that way, they're not all sewn in place.
No, it's only the outside edge pieces that are kind of missing. And if you pin rather than pin that side, because this is the side you're going to sew on. Otherwise you're fiddling around with pins underneath. And then once you've gone all the way round, we're going to trim it back.
To the line.
To the line. And hopefully then you start to see the shape better, because at the minute it's just kind of everything's just rectangular, isn't it? Now I'm going through 3 layers. Your machine should still be okay, but just be aware that if you at this stage want to put a walking foot on, then do. I've just got a slightly longer stitch. So 2.5 I'm on.
So are you sort of sewing on top of the previous line?
Just that scant to the right of it.
Okay.
So if your first line was good, we're on a winner. Oh, I forgot. So now is when you want the top and bottom thread to be the same colour for preference, but now I've got yellow on the other side. But not to worry.
But it'll be in the seam allowance, won't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good thinking. Nearly there. Just one side to go back up. And I'll show you the bottom as well. So we're kind of 3/4 of the way through it, really, I suppose, because all we've got to do is trim it around, do the bottom, sew the sides up together, and oh no, we put the handle binding on first, and then sew it up together. And don't worry about all the quilting on the inside, because obviously that's in your lining anyway. I think I'm round to that. Yes. Because it's the same colour, I couldn't see where I was at. Right, okay. So that's just anchored everything around there. So it's quite difficult to see on this side, but it's gone all the way through. Just make sure that you've gone all the way through all your pieces of fabric. If you don't want to start chopping away and have left any kind of flappy bits at the end. So flip it over now and then just cut all the way around it.
So you cut just outside that, yeah, because I guess you can't see the marked line anymore.
No, it's just on there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. Sorry, it's a bit like paint drying.
No. I said that the other day when I was doing something like, oh, I've done that because it's boring, but actually it's nice watching. It's actually quite nice. It is nice to have the quiet bits where people are sewing and cutting. Because then you sort of think about it as well.
And I think the next bit I'm going to do is the binding.
So I guess that's why, yeah, you have to sew just inside.
Yeah, because that's your guide line, and then you want the actual size, so that's where you can sew just a little bit outside then. You've still got quite a bit there to be doing something scrappily with.
I know, do you keep all your scraps?
Yeah.
And what do you do with them?
Well, quite often I'll do new material from it, you know, with your binding strips and stuff. You can make new fabric, can't you, to cut other things out of. I do that, a lot of that. I do EPP a lot as well, a lot of hexes.
Yeah, so that's very useful, isn't it?
And also, and I mean, not so much now because we're not going to the parks, but sitting and letting children play while you're doing EPP is quite good. When they get a bit older, they can go off on their own a little bit. Swing yourself, I'm not
Swing
pushing.
yourself, I've got another side of the hexagon to get round.
You can actually be quite productive.
Well, it's nice, I like EPP because you think, well, I'm going to do all the pressing, or, you know, or the gluing or tacking round, and then I'll do all the sewing. But all these little scraps of fabric, just
some of them are just so nice. You don't want to get rid of them, do you? Okay, so that's what that is looking like now. So the next thing we've got is our binding. So you'll cut two 20-inch pieces. It's 2.5-inch strips that you'll have, and then obviously these are biased, so just be a little bit careful when you're pressing them not to stretch them, because you want it to go around the curves, but you don't want super extra amounts. And then the next thing that we'll do is to pin that on around the curves. So you'll want it the raw edges against the raw edges, as per normal.
Okay.
Just start a little bit over, and you want to pin that around, and then we'll sew it on each side. And this is where you can make it more dramatic or not, depending on what fabric you choose on there. I noticed the black one, that looks quite dramatic on
Yes,
there,
they've
doesn't
made
it?
a real feature out of the binding on this one. Yeah, because you can really see it.
And you could use it like the favourite fabric, or
Yeah.
you can give it quite a different personality, can't you, when you put the binding
Yeah,
on?
that's true, actually.
So you'll do both sides of that.
Yeah, so the Quilt As You Go pack on its own without the fabric is sold out. So
Lots of people have got lots of fabric then.
yeah, yes, obviously.
You probably, actually, if you bought the quilt this morning, you probably have enough left to do one of these. At
So
least.
you could turn that into a picnic quilt,
Yeah,
and then this could be the matching wine bottle tote.
and you could put on the back of the quilt, you could put some fabric and Odie coat it or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got a new line
brilliant.
going. Right, okay, so let's do this. And
Yes.
again, 1/4 inch seam is where we're going with it.
So the blue and purple one that you did earlier is the most popular.
I like that one.
I think if you have a picnic rug matching your wine tote, people might question. But
What, question your style?
just question why you feel.
Have you got enough time for doing this? And
Well, do you always have wine on your picnics? Yes.
could be ginger beer.
Could be, exactly. Elderflower cordial.
Right, okay, so. And then when you flip it over to the other side, you can either hand stitch it. I quite like, if I'm doing quilts and stuff like that, I'd like to hand stitch it, but I have to say with that, I just machine stitched it. And just kind of ease around your corners. So let's do this one. Don't know if we might not have time to do the other. And then just get it to behave itself. Just give it a little press. And then you'll take this to the opposite side, so to the reverse.
Okay.
And
And did you machine stitch that one down?
I machine stitched this one down there.
Okay.
I did a stitch in the ditch, and so when you're folding it over, if you make sure that the folded piece here goes beyond your stitching line, you're safe.
Right, okay. And that's where this is what I was saying earlier about the clips. This is when the clips are ideal, because normally you'd have to pin from one side, then turn it round and then pin the back, but with the clips you don't have to.
No. And also, when you've got the clip, so I've put it over and made sure that it's going over, and then kind of pushed it back again. So rather than pull it right the way over like this,
Yeah.
I've kind of gone over and then wiggled it back up again. So you've got a decent amount of the trimming showing.
But just making sure that that's covered so you can stitch.
Yeah.
Or you can just hand stitch it.
You
depending
could,
on what
yeah,
you
you could
prefer.
hand stitch it. Needle and thread's not coming out today though, sorry. It's going to be on the machine. So once I've gone round this, you'll get the kind of idea. I can stitch one side and I'll do the bottom because I don't think I'm going to have time to do both sides, but you'll get the very kind of general idea of
I think you've probably got about 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if you stitch that around, actually I might not have time then. So if you stitch that around and you'll attach the other side exactly the same, once you've done that, what you're then going to do is bring them both together and stitch up the top.
Okay.
Here. So you'll only stitch one side. So it'll eventually, imagine that is on. Eventually it will be, you do a lot of imagination with me.
I could, yeah, a lot of imagination.
I do not finish very much.
So, no, but this is the, yes, I get it. So you bind the edges
and then
you sew it.
You sew that. So imagine that you've bound those edges, you've stitched them all down and you've sewn up here. So now what we're going to do
Then
is...
you've got a bottomless wine bottle.
Slips through nicely.
Perfect.
That would be so disappointing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Now it just needs a bottom.
It needs a bottom. So take your circle of fabric, which looks a bit like a target.
Yes, because it has got a bullseye through it.
Trim it down. And then again...
Outside the line.
Outside the line. And then again, what you're going to do is you want to sew, so you've got a marking line. So you can base that on there with your spray baste. And then stitch around just inside the blue line. So this scant stitch, basically. So left hand down and do a bit of a circle.
Message from Wendy. Across the bottom. Just finished dry January. Wine on a picnic sounds lovely.
Is that Wendy Orlando?
Peaceful. No, Wendy.
Oh.
No. Yeah. I'm with
Sorry.
you, Wendy. I think wine on a picnic sounds lovely. Lovely, the show, so peaceful. It is,
Bless
yes.
you.
And I do think a nice glass of chilled white wine on my picnic rug sounds perfect. Matching.
Matching. Matchy. It'll be
See, and
fine.
because you get 3, you can have one for a gift, one for yourself, and one spare.
Job done. Right, okay, so gone all the way round. And then you'll stitch, actually this time you are going to stitch on the cross. That's the only time you stitch on that line.
Oh, okay. Is that to just hold it in place or add detail?
It is, but also, well, it quilts it a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But also, it's to help placement.
Oh, of course. So rather than marking the quarter points, you've sewn them on already. That's a good idea.
So one that way, one this way. And then because now you can't see where that is, because you've got to enclose it. Clever thing is turn it upside down, you know exactly
And you
where
know
it is.
where it is, yeah.
So then you stitch again just outside that line. Oops. Oh, I keep getting my guide caught underneath because I didn't change the quarter.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yes.
I was thinking, why is that
very
going
good
on?
unless you're sewing circles.
I'm usually quite good at sewing circles, isn't I? So that's what you do.
Yeah, no, that all makes perfect sense.
I have one. I did.
Oh, look at that.
I just remembered. I've got one that I did. So there, you've got. That's the first side. That's the top side, and obviously that will be the bottom of your wine tote now. So it's just like you would do if you were putting the bottom in just a bag, any old kind
match
of
the
bag.
quarters.
So you then would, need another one. As you open it out, if you match your seams, you can mark those if you want, or if you just give them a good squidge, they'll mark themselves. So your X marks the spot. Okay. So you want the outside inside, if you get what I mean. So this is all the outside, going to be the outside. So that goes down. So right side to right side is what I'm saying. And then you will pin or clip that around. Probably you would clip it because you're getting quite thick material now. So I would go clip all the cross points first. That's probably not going to work because you will have sewn down the side seams,
Yes.
remember?
Yes.
And that goes into there. And then that is the final one. And you'll sew all the way around, and then you turn it the right way around, and you'll end up
And
with
that's
that.
it. That's quite simple then, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was
Very
brilliant. I really
straightforward.
enjoyed that, Jules, because it's quite nice to see. I haven't done quilt. I mean, I've seen it before, but I've not actually done it. It's nice to see which order you do it in, which way to start, and the fact you can that you can press it and so on. Oh, that's pretty.
That's going to be what it will be.
So you could have
in the
have a little think beforehand, like you're saying, plan it and work out. That's really
Yeah.
pretty, isn't it? I like that. I like the classic one.
Classy.
It is classic, isn't it? Classic, metallic and classic. That was
But
great.
hopefully that explains the mysteries of the quilting.
That was brilliant. So when are you next in with us?
Oh, I'm in on the 24th.
24th.
Yes, mark that day. I don't know what I'm doing yet, though.
Don't know what you're doing yet.
Don't know what I'm doing yet.
Is that a Monday?
Was
that
I
a
think it's a Wednesday, actually.
Oh,
I've
okay.
got a feeling it's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
But yes, it'll be an exciting day.
Oh, is that the day of excitement?
That's the day of
20
excitement.
Oh, yes.
I can't say any more.
Yeah,
in
no,
case
I don't
get
know if it's
shocked.
a secret. Sorry.
Well, it's we haven't said anything about
Yeah, I
it.
don't know.
Apart from it's the 24th of February.
And it's, yes.
And it's going to
day
be
of
an exciting show.
It's going
'cause
to be an
it always
exciting
is.
day. Yes, I think I might be in that day as well.
We'll be having a wine tote party. Or not.
We will. Yeah, I think I might be. Right, so let's just recap the bundles now. I've packed that back in together. So the blue and purple, which is the one that Jules made her sample make out of, gorgeous. So in the pack, obviously, you get the Quilt As You Go pack, which is all the pre-printed batting, wadding and instructions to make 3 wine totes. You get 1/2 metre of this lovely blue turquoisey metallic, 1/2 metre of the purpley metallic, and 1/2 metre of this rich emperor purple. Isn't that lovely? And that will make 3 of the tote bags. That's the £32.49. That's the one that's in the picture on the screen at the moment. Just fold it back up. Right. The most popular is the one that Jules has just been demonstrating, the red, green and cream. So the classic one. So again, you get the pack with the pre-printed wadding and all the instructions. You get 1/2 metre of this lovely red sort of very delicate leaf print. You get 1/2 metre of the green, which is tiny little flowers, and then 1/2 metre of the red, which has got like a linen effect print, but it is pure cotton. That's in the green and cream bundle. And the navy and red bundle. Again, you get the Quilt As You Go pack in there with all the instructions and the pre-printed wadding. You get 1/2 metre, this lovely navy fabric, which looks like sort of hawthorn berries and little white flowers. I'm not sure what it is, but it's yeah, just tiny little red berries. This is a Moda fabric. Let's have a look. Daybreak by 3 Sisters. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. What a nice selvage. You don't often see a quote on a selvage. I like that. So that's 1/2 metre of that. Then you get 1/2 metre of this red fabric, which has got, it's like self-print. It's got a red print on it. That's very nice. That's Colour Flow by Stoff Fabrics. Very rich and red. And you then get 1/2 metre of the navy and white stripe fabric. Very classic as well, very navy and red. And finally, the green bundle, where you get 1/2 metre of this green floral print. So it's got a, you know, quite a rich green background with very bright like lipstick pink flowers. Then you get 1/2 metre of this stripe, same green, but that's fun, isn't it? I like this sort of the lime in there. It's a bit like sort of old pillowcases, old sheets. Do you remember those, that stripe? I like that, very beachy. Picnic, this is the picnic one, isn't it? And then you get 1/2 metre of the cream, which is this sort of slightly mottled cream, not just a plain solid cream. So there we go. So all you have to do is choose which one you want. There's the tricky one. But you see how easy it is. It's a nice little project. If you wanted to buy something for somebody, you know, you think they're at home and they need something to do. They've done a bit of sewing, but they want to get back into sewing and quilting. This is perfect. Order it, get it sent straight to their house, because everything you need is in the kit. Oh, I must put those instructions back in the right bag. So don't go anywhere. We are about to go to Yarn Lane. Well, we will at 12 o'clock. If you're watching on the TV, you don't need to do anything. We'll just move over. If you're watching on the web, or if you're on your computer, or you're watching on Facebook, I knew there's one other, you need to, at 12 o'clock, move over to yarnlane.com. But if you're on the TV, just stay where you are. So I'll just talk through what we've got coming up tomorrow on Sewing Street, and then we'll move on to Yarn Lane. So at 8 o'clock tomorrow, we've got fabric bundles. Yay, more fabric for you to choose from to add to your stash. That's going to be brilliant. Oh, 9 o'clock, we've got Debbie Harris back doing the side pocket satchel. She was one of our winners on, I can't remember, what was the competition called? What was the competition called? It was a search for a star. It was something else. Great British Sew Off. Yes. 10 o'clock is sewing machines. 11 o'clock, Great British Sew Off or something. Make Off. The Great British Make Off. She was one of the winners from that. 11 o'clock, Crazy for more creative grids with Debbie Harris again. And at 12 o'clock is Kits Revisited. Yay! So that's tomorrow on Sewing Street. But don't go anywhere, because on Yarn Lane we've got tatting. Now, Barbara from Tatting and Design was with us just before Christmas, and she's so popular. She did shuttle tatting and needle tatting. The kit's all sold out, so we had a chat. She's got new kits, new colourways. We've got shuttle tatting and needle tatting again, but different kits with different things, but she's going to show you. So if you're a beginner, you can learn from scratch. If you watch the last show and you've had a go, then you can practice and move on. So don't go anywhere except for make yourself a cup of tea and come back, and we'll be on Tatting and Design on Yarn Lane.